All right, all right. Another Saturday night shoot the breeze. I want to thank everyone who will be here tonight, who is going to join the panel. I want to thank all of you who will be tuning in during the playback. Make sure you guys drop some comments. Those of you who listen during the playback, drop some comments. Let us know you were here. Let us know you enjoyed what you heard during the conversation. Also, check out the Shoot the Breeze Clips channel. I should probably post that up top, or I'll put it in the description. But check out the Shoot the Breeze Clips show, so you could go back and listen to some of the discussions that we've had, in short form. So make sure to check out that channel as well. So what are we talking about tonight? You know what I like to do? I like to come on here, tell you what's in store for you. We're going to talk about how the black man is the least protected. Not the black woman. The black man is the least protected. We're going to talk about a scenario of a woman who goes out to eat for free. We're going to answer the question, is it bum energy or a good way to get a good partner? We're going to look at a video. I saw this video too, and I just shook my head at it. We're going to look at a video of, when capitalists talk about chastising the working class. Like some of you probably saw it on Twitter as well. I think Oni posted it. I think I posted it, and others. Interesting video, and it's something I think our people definitely need to understand. We're going to answer the question, what's going on with white families? We're going to look at a certain scenario. We're going to talk about Epstein. Epstein targeted youth in the U.S. Virgin Islands through his so-called education program. We're going to talk about it. And if we have time, I have 5 and a possible. If we have time, we're going to dispel a certain myth that other groups don't talk about their historical losses. But that one will only occur if we have time. I see daily affirmations. Like Paulina's out there. Make sure to support her channel and support her journal as well, her book. Jonelle is out there, Joe. Uwa Bantum says peace all early this time. So what we're going to do is, if you want to join the panel, anyone, click the link. I'll bring you up. What I'm going to do is start the show officially. And on the other side, I will introduce the panelists and drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1. So stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-Black perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the revolutionary matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
All right. I see Ketter is in the chat saying peace, family, peace to Ketter. I appreciate you coming through. He's a usual fan as well as most of you who said what's up in the chat. I got one panelist so far, so I'm going to make it a good one. Let's say hello to our brother Black Steel. I almost said your name this time. Let's say hello to our brother Black Steel. Go ahead.
Please remember my secret identity, man. I got to protect my family.
How are you this week?
I'm doing good, Coco. I'm doing good. Nothing really going on too much down here. You know, the same old fuckery in the, United States of America. You know how it is.
Yeah, for sure. Let's welcome in our second panelist for tonight, Buana. Buana, how are you this week?
I'm good, brothers, man. How y'all doing? Black Steel, Coco, how y'all doing?
Doing good, Buana. Good to see you.
Hanging in there. All right. Let's get right into it then. Should read topic number 1 tonight. Says, how is the black man not the least protected? Where are the black women refuting this? Are black women betraying the black community for money? Shout out to Trigger Happy 262 is here as well, saying peace. This prompt comes with a link to YouTube, of course. So let me share my screen. So here's a shared screen. We'll watch the video, then we'll discuss it.
These black men just and they don't give a yeah. This man hit me. He grabbed a rock and it hit me in my face. And I would have given him my number.
Her friend, this time is raising money on behalf.
So she'd have made $40,000 on the first one, and now they're creating another one with the same scenario, but a different person, allegedly. But they said their friend have believed that this is real. Y'all really believe this is real? Y'all are stupid.
The first thing I thought was that it didn't make any sense. Number one, where I'm from, people don't pick up bricks hitting people, especially her saying that a man wanted her number and she got the brick because she didn't want to give him her number. It just wasn't adding up. So for sure, I knew right away there was more to this, that he will start throwing bricks. An American black man being that pressed over some leftover thought pocket. Just think about it, a brick. We don't throw rocks and stones and bricks. And I thought that others could quickly pick up on that too. So I continue to enjoy our great Labor Day weekend filled with some of the college football. LSU State, Colorado came alive that weekend too. Shout out to Coach Prime, Shador, Travis Hunter, Dylan, who also shocked everybody in that opener. The whole team made the non-believers believe.
What's up, boss? You believe that? Hold on. Oh no. Do you believe that? Huh?
Who said I didn't believe before?
No. I read through that bull junk you wrote. I read through that. I sifted through
what did
that.
I write?
Yeah.
What did I write?
Oh no.
Colorado came back week 2 and defeated Nebraska to a sold-out stadium in their home opener. Georgia Bulldogs balling like it's no tomorrow. So yeah, the Somali Carly Russell was not about to get any attention from me on my holiday week. The woman in question came out with this fake stage here, doing all this huffing and
face. I would have given him my number. And all y'all just watch.
Acting like somebody did her something when no one touched her at all. She literally already had her face like that, wore a mask, and then took it off right before filming this video. And later on, we'll get into the account from the nurse who claimed that she put that stuff in her own face. And acting like somebody did something to her. Immediately, the men who are supposed to be Somali men are just standing around like, what do you want me to do? That's because she ran from across the street, putting on this whole victim show. It was unbelievable, but unbelievably, all these people believed her.
Sense.
All she had to do was say a black man did it, and the other black man just stood there and wouldn't help her.
What? And they don't give a. Yeah, this man hit me, grabbed a rock, and it hit me in my face, because I would have given him my number. And all y'all just watch. Y'all see that?
I mean, she knew exactly what to say, how to say it, and how to act in order to get the black misandrous, feminists, and simps activated on social media. They all fell for this whole storyline.
Y'all are stupid. Stupid.
She just started yelling and screaming and pointing at a black man, and that's all it took. And like a bunch of sheep, they fell right for it. Didn't matter for poor and not crack anything, still conscious and doing all that talking. Speech not impacted at all, nothing. None of it mattered though. They just saw her face, looked so as ever, beat up Martin, and they automatically believed her story like a bunch of idiots. Why they believed it? Well, the same reason why they believed Carly Russell's lying behind. Because we're supposed to believe all women, no matter if it doesn't make any sense. If she said it, then we're not supposed to question it, use any common sense or logic. Just get emotional like a bunch of 2-year-olds, and that's it. You know, stuff like I saw a baby on 459 in a diaper on a pitch black interstate.
Hi, I am on Interstate 459, and there is a kid just walking by themselves.
Yeah, lies like that. They're acting like she was at the hospital for the brick.
I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid. Why do people want to hurt me so bad?
And it was the feminist-led misandrous media puppets who went out there to spread her lies, spread her narrative. Millions of people saw that on the Shade Room. She was talked about on the Breakfast Club, and she immediately got support. If that wasn't enough, you had all these videos coming out of her promoting that black women should go sleep with black women. Black women are protectors and not black men. Literally setting up black women to be without protection. While she also ran around saying that women are jealous, but Somali women had natural BBL type bodies without the surgery. More videos came out of her putting hands on men, jumping in men's faces, talking crazy, being ratchet. You had old friends coming out saying that she was always acting like this and used to go around spitting on people. But she was telling y'all that she was some nice, wholesome woman who never did anything to anybody.
What have I ever done to anybody in my life to deserve this? I never did anything in my life to hurt anybody.
And the Oscar goes to...
And just as soon as she fooled all these idiots, she pulled out the GoFundMe. She got all these black female suckers and these black male simps to give her $35,000 in just one day. Everybody was throwing money at her left and right, and now she's been able to scam over $42,000 while she's laughing at all the fools who believed her. It didn't take long to come out that this wasn't her first time pulling off this same scam.
You grew up and they mad because you trying to beat somebody. They mad because you trying to beat somebody. I'm trying to be a doctor and they mad. Look what they did to me. Look what they did to me for no reason. They don't beat me up. I'm 30 years old. They gonna beat me up. Who else trying to beat me up? Who else trying to beat me up for no reason? Look at me. I'm not a bad person. Y'all know that. Y'all know I'm a good person. And they try to do this to me.
Very similar, huh? Same spill. Acting like some man did something to her and men at a club put hands on her out of jealousy because she wanted to be a doctor. The same feminist lie and misandrous talking point that these idiots really believe. And even in that situation, she got thousands from GoFundMe. That was 3 years ago in 2020. So when you put two and two together and really look at everything with common sense, you will really start to see that something just ain't right. Word keeps sweat.
If y'all was on our live last night, y'all would have saw the investigation we did, the calls we made, the people we talked to, only to discover this was all a hoax. After contacting the police, the internet contacted the police has no report of the incident. After the venue owner, right there where it happened, checked all of his surveillance cameras, he alleges nothing like this ever happened, that she just came out of nowhere with all these accusations. The guys that were standing around in this video says they never saw the incident. They just heard her screaming and yelling and yapping, and they called the police. She was out there acting crazy and ridiculous, and they just said they left when the police got there. But they never saw anybody hit her with the brick. Long and short, this woman does a lot for views, likes, and GoFundMes. Go look at her GoFundMe history. Go look at her viral history. She does whatever she can to get viral. And the internet is believing that she did sustain, she knew it would work if she blamed black men. And look what happened. Black women lost their mind. They just start bashing black men all across the world because we're trying to hold her accountable like we did Carly Russell. The facts is this was a hoax for viral views and the $32,000 that she's already raised on her GoFundMe, which she's done before.
Shout out to this brother on TikTok. I'll leave the link below for you. The woman totally lied. You even had a nurse who claimed that she put that solution in her face to get it to swell up and went to their clinic to get it drained out.
You know who contacted me? The nurse. The nurse from the alleged hospital was not a hospital. It was a clinic. And this is what she had to say. Yes, she came in to get the saline extracted from the side of her face, which means she never got hit with a brick. She injected saline into her face to create the lump. That's why she wore the ski mask, so y'all wouldn't see the lump that she created. And don't forget, she's in the medical field, so she has access to saline. Anyway, let's finish reading. She claimed it was a botched beauty treatment. That's definitely our med check, not the hospital. She must have filmed that little clip while waiting on the nurse after asking her to put on the gown. And y'all fell for this. Y'all fell for this. This is the nurse from the clinic. But I couldn't, she gave me other receipts, but I can't show you those receipts. She wanted to prove to me that this was fake. And she begged me not to show you all those receipts because it could get her fired. So we are not going to give you those receipts, but I'm here to tell you, that woman's lying for money. Go to her Instagram. You see the other video when she did the same in 2020.
And no, I don't feel sorry for none of y'all who believed her. Instead of throwing money at this apparent liar, you should have used that money for therapy because obviously you have some deep-rooted issues that you haven't worked out yet. This is why when you see any so-called black female victim, you immediately want to gravitate towards her for some, quote, justice. No matter if she's not making any sense and can't provide you with any proof to substantiate her claims, you just believe her because believing her satisfies a little victim within you. Maybe you've gone through something at some point and could have been a real victim and nobody around you did anything about it. Whether it was your mama who allowed it or other family. And then even now with yourself, you did nothing to heal yourself besides jump on social media. So instead of holding the people accountable for personally doing something to you, y'all wait for the latest news story, the latest Robert kills, the latest DV accusation, the latest black man y'all can find or situation, like somehow that's going to fix your situation. Whatever you need to do. Y'all have literally been sitting up here arguing back and forth about protecting black women all over a life from some Somali woman who played y'all like Lizzo's flute. Led y'all down this path of sabotage where you continue to be vulnerable to people like her over and over. It's disgusting. And that's all I got to say about this mess. I'm just so sick of this whole lie, the whole situation. But I do believe the brick lady should be investigated and held accountable. But of course, it's going to take the same people she scammed to hold her accountable. And they already invested their money and emotions into this lie. So you already know how that goes. Dr. Umar, is this the example of Black women that you tell Black men to protect and provide for? Is this it? Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Special thank you to Edmund. I appreciate you, Edmund, for all of your support.
All right. Let me just quickly say this. I get that it's an expose, I guess, and I get that, people, men and women, are going to have some commentary about it. But the guy in this video is a little too gossipy for me, personally. I do think there's a deeper conversation to have here, but we'll stick to the prompt, I guess, because I'm still not certain about the prompt. But I'm still not too certain about the prompt. But there's a deeper conversation here. We'll see if we can get into that. Let me start with Buana first. Buana, how is the Black man not the least protected? Where are the Black women refuting this? Are Black women betraying the Black community for money? Shout out to Realm in the Bush, by the way. Buana, what's it?
Yeah, what's up? What's up? Shout out to Boss Lady. I guess this is a fun prompt, so I mean, I'll I'll handle it in a fun way. You try my best to handle it in a fun way. Black men are not the least protected. How Black men are not the least protected? This whole idea of protection comes from the whole idea of our most vulnerable people. They always say the Black woman is the most vulnerable person in the society, and she needs to be protected. Now we doing it in a roundabout way. You say, well, the man should be protected. It's a back and forth gender argument that's happening, and some of it could lead to real ridiculous kinds of conclusions, man. I mean, it's ridiculous. First of all, if you are an adult person, this whole idea of protection, I think that, and especially for men, I think that if a man needs to be protected, he should go buy a gun or buy a dog or go learn karate. I mean, if we really look at it like that, you know, I don't necessarily see men as so vulnerable where they need to be protected physically. Physically, I think that that's a matter for individuals, where they find that it's important to try to protect defend themselves, in terms of protection. In terms of carrying a bad name, if that's what is referencing, the question is referencing, well, you live in the Western world, and the Western world rules say that Black men are perceived in a particular way and manner, whether it's by the greater society, and now there are cases and instances where you hear a lot of Black women, not all, some Black women carrying the line and the argument of this big bad Black man. And yes, they are parroting the country's narrative of the Black man ain't nothing. So if you mean protection or being protected in those regards, and how we being looked at, and how we being disrespect, our name is being disrespected. Well, I can understand the argument there. In terms of whether Black women are betraying the Black community, that's a big statement. That's a big statement. And I sometimes want my brothers and sisters to be specific, because you can't say not all of nothing. Black women is a general term. Are all Black women selling themselves for money? In terms of doing something that's untoward in the Black community? I don't think so. I don't think so. There are always going to be elements that exist within our communities that's going to be criminals, that's going to be scandalous, that's going to act in nefarious ways. There are always going to be con artists among us, but intelligent people try to focus on the best of ourselves rather than the worst of ourselves. We don't want to emulate the armpit of society. We want to emulate the things that make us great. And I think that some of these kinds of conversations, they are low hanging fruit. You don't necessarily bring anything to the table besides gossip. It doesn't make us become better. But if I was to just leave it to this particular narrative in what I'm watching, there's something going on here. When you see this lady says or makes the accusation that she was hit by a brick, the first thing, if someone was to assault me with a brick, the person who should be most trying to protect her is really the police. That is their job. That's what you pay your taxes for. So why isn't she on the phone calling the police? That's the first question. The second question, if you she's not really acting like a victim, really. She's acting more or less as an accuser. If a woman is hit by a brick in her face, I mean, I don't think that the narrative would be like, you all go get him, just to random strangers who she don't know. I don't see that. I think that there's, or even cut on the camera and start filming her casting aspersions at random men she doesn't know to say, you all go get him. She is not acting as a victim. And if I was to watch something like this, if I was to see someone actively trying to harm someone, I would try to get in it. But these brothers don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on. Besides a woman yelling and screaming at them, saying that they ain't being men. What is that? What is that? Should I get involved in that? I don't think so. I don't think so. Because I don't know what's going on. So I must put myself in a jackpot situation against the arguments of some random woman who I just meet accusing me of not getting involved in a situation that I had nothing to do with. I didn't see happen. None of it. It's like we just supposed to react emotionally. And good for these brothers from not the fact that they didn't act emotionally. Good for them. Good for them. Because they would have entered a situation they know nothing of. Our community, we have problems and we have issues. This particular lady has a major one. I don't know if she's trying to pay for medical school or she's actually psychotic, but she needs to get psychological help. And social media is assisting with her illness, unfortunately. What I mean? I think that we could use social media to be use social media as a very powerful tool. And she is using it to get the so-called proverbial bag. But I think that it's unfortunate that we use social media for reasons that seem to be very frivolous and ridiculous. But I'll leave it there.
I appreciate that, Buana. I had to stop sharing the screen. For some reason, my system was lagging. A lot was said there, Buana, and I appreciate what you said. In the chat, Trigger Happy 262 plus. I can't read all of the comments, but Trigger Happy went down the rabbit hole of this story. It seems, and he found that it seems like she might be telling the truth. The only thing I don't have a problem with that. The only issue, and Buana kind of brought it up there, is what's up with all these GoFundMes based around this idea of being attacked all the time. I think there might be something a little off about that. But I will also say too, I saw a black woman commenting about this situation, and she said something that struck me, and I had to really sit with it for a minute. She said that her husband's job is to protect her. He has no business putting his life on the line, making me this is her talking, making her a widow and making her children be fatherless. We talked about this a couple of months ago with the Haitian fella down in like Miami somewhere there, and with the Bahamian wife, and he went to go protect some strange woman and he died, leaving young children. They had to get a GoFundMe to bury him. I think lastly I'll say this. I think the issue that we have is that we haven't caught up with the change in society. We haven't caught up with what's going on. We still think, and I'm not saying we're wrong in our thinking, we still think about that African paradigm of Ubuntu. You know, I am because we are. But this world, the way they have this thing situated, which is why we need to come to having some power. The way they have this world situated, it doesn't make sense for you to die for a woman you don't know, and you don't know what, maybe she started the incident, this, that, and the other, and meanwhile you leave back a family, you leave back people who depend on you, etc. And I think that's something we're gonna have to understand. Do we want to get back to the days when everyone looked out for one another? Absolutely. But in this current paradigm, we have a big problem here. We have a big problem here in this current paradigm. What say you, Black Steel? You heard what Buana said. You heard what I had to say. You saw the chat. What say you about it? Am I wrong in that assessment just now?
I think that you're right in that assessment. I think that as it was said, we're very individualistic. We're not who we truly are. I think living in this society, so we do have to re-examine that, because you are correct. That is very dangerous. Even the police don't like to intervene in domestic disputes. So, and they have guns. So, for a strange person to walk in, intervene, anything can happen. So, I think it's something that we really have to take into account. I don't want to spend too much time on the prompt. Um, but I want, for the first question, how is the black man not the least protected? I would say that neither black men nor black women are the least protected. I would actually say that black children, boys and girls, are the least protected. Anybody can go online, look at the statistics about the child abuse rates and neglect of black children. So when you study these, we understand that it's actually black children who are probably the least protected in the society. Um, Really, I would also say that I have some questions about the latest story. Um, Number one, who gets hit in the face and picks up a phone to start live streaming? If you got hit with a brick, why are you live streaming? Look what this person did to me. Look what this person did to me. It screams attention whore. Um, Looking at the dude who made the video, I have a hard time believing he just called up a nurse and she just told him this. Like, that's such a HIPAA violation. She just told this random man that you don't know on the internet this woman really didn't get hit in the face. That makes that makes no sense to me. I'm a little skeptical behind that. But let's go off the premise that she didn't get hit technically. All right, let's just go off of that. Um, Lying on black people, black men in particular, is a long, long history. It's an American pastime, really. It's more American than baseball and apple pie. You know, they would lie on black men uh, to cause lynchings. What was the one white woman who lied and said, Susan Smith in South Carolina? She lied and said some black man kidnapped her kids out the car, drove the kids into a lake and drowned. Come to find out, she just wanted to be with her new man, so she killed her kids. It's a long history of lying on black people, and I think that if coming from the hypothetical that if she's telling the truth, it seems like this is a black woman who, hey, scammers exist. People scam. Um, it could just be very well she wants the ability that white women have always had to just pick out a black person, say he did it, and then let somebody jump on him. Now, this coming from uh, if she's telling the truth, So assuming she's telling the truth, she's not being dishonest. Um, Again, what does it look like to protect random strangers? Everybody should just jump in. And they're making comparisons to what happened in Montgomery, Alabama. The black man got attacked by some racists, and everybody jumped in to defend this man. Um, but it's one thing. Me and my brother fight sometimes, and me and him don't get along. We you get into a fight with your brother, y'all pat. That's one thing. But if somebody else jumps on your brother. Hold on, we got to fight. So, like I said, I don't really know, um, you know, as far as this woman telling the truth. I have my opinions. I'm, I don't know for sure, so I'm gonna leave that blank. But to say she's being telling the truth, I really, like you said, you have to question. Um, when is it appropriate to intervene? There's times you might intervene in a fight, and the woman could turn around and jump on you. So I'm gonna wrap it up really quickly. You just have to really just be careful. Um, you know, when you're in those situations, and understand your life is value as a black man, as a person, as a man, as a human being. You have family to get home to. You have loved ones to look into. I always ask these people, if I were to jump into these fights or get involved, are you gonna, be there for my mother? Are you gonna cut my mother's grass? Are you going to be at my son's college graduation? Are you gonna
You
walk
gonna
my
have that
daughter
bail money ready?
You
Are you
end up
gonna have that
I'm
bail
gonna
money
get bail
ready?
money. If I'm a crack, are you gonna walk my daughter down the aisle when she gets married? Are you gonna do any of these things? Or I'm just gonna be dead and cold in the grave. So I think all of these things have to be taken into account. I'll leave it there. I think I spent enough time. Thank you, Coco.
No, you did a good job, Black Seal. I wanted to add to something what you said and what Trigger Happy said. What makes me say whether this lady needed psychological help. If I am hit, if a female person, it's been my experience. Maybe no, maybe it's been my experience. The illness is, if you get hit by a brick, your first recourse is to start live streaming. Don't call the police. Don't call my cousin, my brother, my someone who could assist me, someone who I know. But to cut on the camera and start live streaming and hurling accusations and random strangers you don't know seem to be a little bit of some sickness going on there in your head. Maybe the brick caused you to be dizzy. This is the reason why I would suggest that maybe she does need some psychological help, because it is very unusual for an individual who was to get assaulted by a brick in the face. The first thing she was to think about is to start live streaming and then commenting on random people who didn't jump in and help her. That's very odd.
Right. There's
That's
nobody
odd
called an
behavior.
ambulance. Like, you really just took a severe blow to the head. You have a concussion. Somebody call an ambulance. Nobody thought to do that.
I didn't realize Bono was done there. I want to highlight good comments, by the way. Good comments. Trigger Happy 262 Plus said, one, that's disingenuous. People get disputed by Karens, by the police, and they still live stream. I think you guys aren't being of good faith with your arguments. It's a layer of visibility. I'll let you guys respond to that in a minute. I wanted to get to Lero's comment. I thought this was an interesting one. She says, if we're scared of our own people, what does that say about our perception around our open enemy? There's a potential for danger in everything. How does this impact one's regard for militancy? So let's use that as a secondary question.
I like to answer that question first.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, fear is a healthy, normal reaction. It's the ability to overcome fear that is what we have to do. I can't think of a show. I forgot the name of the show. I think it might have been Game of Thrones, where the young man asked his father, about being afraid, and it's the only time you can't be brave is when you're afraid, because you have to overcome that fear. So I don't think that being scared or being hesitant in the face of danger is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a normal thing, but I think you have to overcome that fear. Even in regards to militancy, we think about many of our militant leaders who were murdered. I'm sure they were afraid. I know Dr. King, the night before he was assassinated, admitted he was afraid. Malcolm X wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for his family. But he said for himself, he was not afraid. But, I don't think that being afraid, having fear, is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's something that we just got to overcome and move above it. So I think as far as how that impacts our militancy. I think we have to understand that's a normal reaction. But as far as the getting, as far as the live streaming, it does provide a layer of visibility. I get it, but also at the same time, you've just been assaulted, and you're thinking, "Hey, let me go on Instagram Live. Let me go on TikTok." After you literally just got, like, somebody were to shoot you, and you get shot, and the first thing you do after you get shot is you live stream. That's a little, I don't know. It's like they're looking for attention. So she could have got all the information she needed from the hospital, from the police report, all that information. She could have obtained that information and not have streamed. This to me was more of a, hey, look at me. I got assaulted and none of these black men helped me. And what would she say? She said something similar in another video, that men aren't really the protectors. Women are the protectors because we protect women. We protect with our breast milk. Something like that. This chick was a lesbian. I don't have no problem against gay people, whatever. But she had a deep-seated issue with men. She definitely was not fucking with the brothers like that. Male, black men or white men. And she was on tape going around slapping white dudes in the face, talking about how, it's not fair that they have power over her because they're men. And she slaps some white dude. Maybe it was a skit. She slaps him and starts twerking. None of these things justify this young lady getting hit, by the way. I'm just saying, you start to look at some of this behavior like, I could understand why people are skeptical. So that's all I'm leave there.
Black Steel. If you watch that that clip just now, you would see that she cut on the camera and she did start live streaming, but the only person who was missing from that live stream was in fact the perpetrator. You didn't see his car driving off. You didn't see her get her license number. You didn't see her attempts to even try to pursue the perpetrator of the crime. All you saw was a bunch of black men. They were the perpetrators indirectly. Indirectly. We were talking about propaganda the other day. She accused them as if they were perpetrators, but they were not the actual perpetrators. The perpetrator of the so-called crime they wasn't there. So she was able to live stream everybody but the actual person who she was saying who committed the actual act itself. Where is he? Comfortably missing from the equation. Comfortably missing from the equation. So he left. Well, if you could get hit by a brick and start live streaming, when did you start live streaming? Did you start live streaming before, during, or after, right after the fact? It's so convenient. It's so convenient. Like I say, I don't, when people make these claims and allegations, no problem. You've been a victim of a crime. Been a victim of a crime. But where's the attempts to call the police? These are natural things that occur from any kinds of incidences like this. But it just seems very strange that she's doing something that is very unusual, something someone would unusually do. And I'm supposed to just go along with it. No problem. You know what I mean? I say this. Trigger Happy says, well, you being disingenuous. Karens do it. This is a different set of facts. This is a whole different set of facts going on. You know what I mean? So I don't want to turn apples into oranges. I stick in with the facts of this particular situation and what in fact happened here. So it called into question reason, logic, and whether what the purpose of the actual clipping itself was supposed to do. And I think the clip itself was to turn black men into actual perpetrators of violence against black women, because the actual perpetrator was not there. This is the problem I have with this particular clip, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I am impressed with Trigger Happy's look into this situation. I didn't look into it because by the time I really caught on to it, people were already saying it didn't seem true and suspect. And frankly, I'm not a fan of all of these public lies that we see from our folks sometimes. I'm just not a fan of it. So I kind of, once I heard it was false, I kind of ignored it. I will say though, even in light of what Trick Happy is saying about the evidence suggests that she was hit in the face with a brick. The 4 GoFundMe's, and he says she's a single mother, blah, blah, blah. But the 4 GoFundMe's is a stretch for me. And I do think if you're going to video something, video the perpetrator. Video the perpetrator. Video the car pulling off or something. You know, but to go run by those black men and start talking about, you know, I think one is correct. I think there is a kind of a indirect way of kind of criminalizing those men too, you know. But anyway, good discussion. We spent some time there. I get that. Well, the perpetrator left. But how quickly did the perpetrator leave? You know, and I'm not filling in the blanks on anything. I'm just stating what I'm seeing. But we'll table that one and go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2. This is a thread. It says, is this bum energy or a good way to get a good partner? I'll be interested to see what the responses are to this. Let me share my screen. This takes us to Twitter. And here's this tweet from MZ Kenyan. There's a video on TikTok where there's a woman that goes out to solo dates and flirts with men who are also on their own so that she can get her meal paid for. And it works with the laughing emoji. And then this other tweet has a video that says Soft Life by Force. This is a 34-second video. I'll play it twice.
You target who's going to pay your bill, but a waiter is having a long-ass conversation with him. You spot your target who's going to pay your bill, but a waiter is having a long-ass conversation with him.
The tables were filled with families and kids, and the bar was empty. The barman asked me for a tutorial, and ask and you shall receive. I woke up super hungry, wanted to go to brunch. No one was able to go with me, so I went by myself. Before I left, I looked in the mirror and affirmed to myself that I will not be paying for shit. I went to this really nice restaurant called Il Molino. I mainly picked it because it's in one of Drake's songs. When I got there, I was like, oops, never mind, because it was a very family-friendly restaurant. All of the tables were filled with families and kids, and the bar was empty. The bar is the best place to meet and mingle with other people, especially men, if you're looking for someone to pay for your bill and to potentially is the best place to meet and mingle with other people, especially men, if you're looking for someone to pay for your bill and to potentially Someone asked me for a tutorial, and ask and you shall receive. I woke up super hungry, wanted to go to brunch. No one was able to go with me, so I went by myself. Before I left, I looked in the mirror and affirmed to myself that I will not be paying for shit. I went to this really nice restaurant called Il Molino. I mainly picked it because it's in one of Drake's songs. When I got there, I was like, oops, never mind, because it was a very family-friendly restaurant. All of the tables were filled with families and kids, and the bar was empty. The bar is the best place to meet and mingle with other people, especially men, if you're looking for someone to pay for your bill and to potentially
I don't know what's going on here. This video played for me earlier. I don't know why it's not playing, but essentially, you guys could kind of pick up the gist of it. This was just the tutorial part where she was teaching other women who were interested in living this kind of lifestyle. So I think everyone should probably get it. Should be topic number 2. Is this bum energy or a good way to get a good partner? I don't even understand the good partner part, but let me start with Black Steel this time. Black Steel, will see you.
I think this is a good way to come up missing. I think you shouldn't be out here playing with your life like this. There's literally like 60, 70,000 black women that go missing every year, and you're just going to go up to random strangers and expect for them to pay for your meal, and they don't expect anything out from you. Why would you play with your life in this way? I think it's definitely bum behavior. She's really just trying to get money off of dudes to pay for her food. It's not a good way to try to party, because these guys are gonna go in this way to I'm paying for your meal. How are you going to pay me back? I'm not just paying for your meal for my health. You got to come up. What they say? Either cash, gas, or ass. Nobody rides for free. So she's really playing with a very dangerous game. It's better for her to just, hey, have your own money. It's okay. This idea you think you can scam people, people are just gullible. It may work every now and then. You might get a good-hearted person. That shit wouldn't happen to me. I wouldn't let no broad scam me out of a free meal. I don't even know you. But yeah, I think it's a good way. It's not a good way to get a partner. It is bum behavior. It's a very good way to get hurt in this society. We can't, we always talk about, let me go back to the previous topic about protection. Protection is more than just stopping bullets beating up other people. Protection is a preventative measure. So when you go in your car, you put your seatbelt on. It's a preventative measure. It's protection. When you warn people, hey, stay away from this part of town, that's a part of protection. So if this young woman was my daughter, she was in my family, in order for me to protect her, I would say, hey, sis, don't be out here trying to get people to pay for your food. You don't know these people. They could very well be dangerous. So this is me extending my protective energy towards her. Another thing is that, we got to get on these simps. We got to check the simps. The reason these women pull these type of stunts is because there is a man out there who they know will do this type of thing. We got to check the simps because they're the ones who are enabling the behavior. So I'll drop it off there and let Buana take it. Thank you, Coco.
Absolutely. Buana, do you agree with that or disagree?
No, it's definitely bum behavior. But before I begin, let me comment on the last comment because Lero said something that's very pertinent. I want if that lady was in fact assaulted, because I want to make this clear. If that lady was in fact assaulted by any guy, any dusty, I want him to be pursued by the fullest extent of the law, and I want him to go under the jail if that's what it takes. And I want the sister, if she was in fact harmed or assaulted, to heal well, despite whatever ridiculous things that she may have come out of her mouth that I may disagree with. I don't want to see the sisters get harmed when it's not called for. In any event, there's other ways to resolve issues and problems. In terms of this particular sister, I am an old school Caribbean man. You know what I mean? So first of all, I'd rather go to the grocery store for you. If you say you want something to eat, you can cook it, and I can participate in the eating of that. So I mean, either your place or mine, we going to get something to eat. You're gonna make some food, but I have no problem going to the grocery store to go get it. But you're gonna cook it. I'm not gonna spend all my good hard-earned money sitting up in a restaurant. It don't go like that for me, man. Yeah, maybe I'm not in a Western sophisticated mind. Maybe I don't have these kinds of ideas and concepts. Sometimes you like to go eat out, but any woman who like eating out too much, really don't have a long. We probably won't have a long conversation, because me personally, I like to prepare my food or my woman to prepare my food. If I do go out once in a blue moon, it's for someone who I really know, and I don't mind, paying for certain things of that nature. But some random women, just because she got a pretty face, come on, man, come on, come on, man. This is for the brothers, the young brothers, to give them, I guess, a little bit of game that you shouldn't do that. That's not a good look. That's not a good thing to do. Let the sisters pay for themselves. They empowered these days. They could get jobs. They could work at McDonald's. They could pump gas. They could do all manner of different things. So if you could do all that, of course you could pay for your own meals. Why do I have to pay for it? So I don't know. It's just a one off. But I'll leave it there.
Yeah, frankly, I don't know how this could lead you to getting a great partner. I just don't see it. So that is absolutely bum behavior. And I like something Black Steel brought up, which is the simp behavior amongst men. And we have to, as men, we need to really come together and discuss this shit now. Like, we're living in a different time, a different world. And here you come with the simp behavior that gives credence to this type of behavior we've seen on the screen. Because there's a sucker out there, and because there's more suckers out there, then more of our women are going to go that way. And the reason why I'm concerned about it is because this is not how relationships should be. I saw a tweet this week. I don't know if you guys saw it in the chat or whatever, or on the panel. You let me know if you saw it. I saw a tweet where a woman was supposed to go on a date with a guy. The guy canceled the date for some reason. Plus, it was raining, but let's put that to the side. The woman texted him back and said something like, "Yo, you gotta send me an inconvenience fee." And this dude, without question, of course, sent the money.
I saw that, Koku. I saw his car got broken into. And she didn't ask, was he okay? What did they take? Are you fine? She's like, yeah, I need $50. Then she asked for another $50 for because it was raining. And he sent her $100 after his car got broken into. That is fatherless behavior.
That's the behavior of tricks and hookers. You pay for a trick's time. A trick pays for a prostitute's time. She puts time on her engagement with a trick. So when you when you Black Steel, you in America, man. You know the game, I guess, better than I would, man. But to me, that's how it sounds. That's how it sounds. You could correct me, brother. You could correct me. But it sounds like a trick and a whole behavior, But I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like the dating discourse is now basically being funded by sex workers. So now we're trying to relate to people on a intimate level, and what really comes out is pay for my time. This is really how capitalism commodifies everything. It turns everything into a transaction. Even basic human interaction becomes a transaction. It's behind a paywall. Everything is really just, how instead of relating to people as men and women, you're relating to you as a whole in a trick. It's dirty. It's a dirty game.
Yeah, the game is getting bad. I see Daily Affirmation by Pauline says she saw the clip too. And she was thinking, is she crazy? Like, what is going on out here? What are we allowing to happen? Lero says, but that's the thing. A lot of quote unquote dating going on today is indeed prostitution, like objectively. Hello, absolutely, sis. This stuff is getting bad now. This is getting bad now.
I always hate when, I often see this type of thing where, a man suggests a date to a woman and she's like, oh, that's that's bare minimum. You know, if you want to go get some coffee, get some ice cream, oh, that's just bare minimum. And to me, the purpose of a date is just spending time with the person you're interested in. It really doesn't matter how much money you spend, because if you like that person, if you enjoy that person's company, that should be the most important thing, not how much money I spend on this person so I can sit back and look cute and take pictures. I don't. I've been in situations where I'm just going to run errands. I need to go buy some dog food. You know, let's go. Okay, and we'll grab something to eat on the way. But if that person enjoys your company, that should be most important. Not, oh, I'm not going to accept you spending such amount of money on me. Give me an inconvenience fee. Let me scam some money out of dude. It's nasty. It's real nasty.
Let's welcome RBG, Real Black Yellow. How are you?
I'm good. I'm gonna just throw my 2 cents in this. I mean, a lot of this has to do with just the phenomenon of social media. I mean, it's just basically like, you know what I'm saying, back in the day, you know what I'm saying, when if you're trying to connect with someone, you know what I'm saying, you probably use the phone, and you know what I'm saying, you probably call someone in your local area. I mean, even with phones in, let's say, the 80s, in which, you know what I'm saying, it's just the nature of the instantaneousness. I mean, we always had cars in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, but, you know, black people weren't necessarily traveling, you know, all the way to even the next town over so much. You know what I'm saying? The next big city over. It wasn't like that because everyone was more locally inclined, and, you know, there were interests. You know, we want to make sure that people were involved with community, and, you know, you know what I'm saying? You want to make sure that the people were people that you knew, that these people were naturally vetted. You know what I'm saying? It's with nowadays where, you know, cars and social media, cars plus phones plus social media, you can, you know, people are, and I mean, men can go and look. Well, I mean, men naturally, instead of just trying to, like, you know, pick between all the women in their local area, they can go and fly someone in. You know what I'm saying? The connections are, you know, with, you know, even a relatively more upwardly mobile black people. I mean, black people would nowadays have a little bit more coin than they did, you know, back in the day. So it's like, and so with the women, I mean, instead of naturally, you know, kind of waiting for someone around, you know, where you may have worked, you know what I'm saying, your community, if you happen to go around, you know, do community stuff, you can go on the internet just like anyone else, and, you know, you know what I'm saying, see a man from, you know, 300 miles away, you know, you have a car, and you go, and that's what it is. There's no more community in this nature, you know what I'm saying, because everything is limited by your ability to connect and your willingness to do so. That is, I mean, what that is. I mean, unless, you know what I'm saying, people are willing, I mean, are willing to, you know, kind of, how would I say it, put constraints in the name of a sense of local development and local, you know what I'm saying? You want people, if you want a city, if you want to build a city, if you want to have any kind of municipal or just civic organization, you know, these are long-term commitments. You want to make sure that the pipes are good, the power stays up, you know what I'm saying, the roads are good, and, you know what I'm saying, that's not a fly by night, you know, internet, you know, swipe right, swipe left kind of thing. And that's what we're losing. I didn't say my piece. I'm gonna pass.
I think that, and Black Seagull love this. I think that this is capitalism gone too far. You know, I think that when you start turning human interaction or turning a human being really into a credit card or a debit card, it's all transaction. I think it's too far. I think it's too far.
You're
And
right.
no one,
I
yeah,
absolutely agree.
yeah, and I think that, I think, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. But I think that no one questions the long term consequences of this behavior. Can you raise a child when you just have transactional relationships? I don't know. I don't know. What would that child look like if my engagement with his father is just purely transactional? You know, man, that's crazy. That's crazy when you consider the long term consequences of this. You know, we taking human beings away from being human beings and turning them really into credit cards and debit cards. I don't know what the long term effects of that is, but I don't think it's nothing nice. You know.
Well,
I just want to jump in real quick. I always thought it was really tasteless, you know, pardon the pun, for all these like videos of watching people eat. I don't want to watch you eat over and over and over again on TikTok. I mean, this is really what I mean, it is what it is. Everyone eats. But I mean, I don't want to watch you, you know, defecate. Everyone does that. I don't want to sit there and watch you do that. And I mean, it doesn't add any more appeal to you. I'd rather watch you do your profession. Honestly, I'd rather have you move around, see them hips move around while you're on your profession. That's what I want to see. You know.
All right, thanks.
I'm sorry, really quick. All right, but want to know? I think what we're seeing is that the more transactional relationships become, you start to see more and more people become alienated and isolated. So now you don't deserve love or affection if you don't make a certain amount of money, or if you don't drive a certain car, or live in a certain area. We start to see people become more alienated and more isolated, which you can see the amount of depression, suicide, mental health issues. We're really starting to see that increase more and more and more. I think that's where this road leads down.
The funny thing about that is, I'm gonna tell you something. In the UK, they have something called the Minister for Loneliness or Relationships, something like that. I can't remember the exact term. But the reason why that ministry was created is because people are finding themselves to be lonely and lonelier. And because of that, it leads to suicides and different kinds of arrangements. And if this is where the West or the United States or whoever else is headed, man, oh goodness, it's just a calamity, you know?
Yeah, this will be bad in our hometown. To make this the norm? Nah. Lero in the chat. Sorry, Marcus McGee is here saying, what's up, y'all? I saw Afro Native World came in as well, but I want to highlight a couple of comments here. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, we had systems of courtship, and better than this, you have to have protocols on marriage and things like that. I agree with you 100%. Afro Native World is here. He said, age sets in Palenque, Colombia, each person is insured a spouse. He said that to Trigger Happy 262, but I like it because there was a time when we had age sets throughout the Caribbean too, I think. Trigger Happy says, yep, age sets were all over Africa. We have to go back to some type of courtship system for our sanity. Lero says, you just got to be careful going into relationships transactional off bat. Trafficking is indeed real, like Brother Carl said. Yeah, so those are the comments in the chat. Does anyone have any last words for this prompt before we move on? All right, let's go to Shooter Breeze topic number 3 tonight. Shooter Breeze topic number 3 says, I love it when these monsters tell the truth. When the capitalists talk about chastising the working class, how would that impact black people, the majority of whom are working class? So this came with a link as well to Twitter. And I really want folks to listen to this. Let's have a spirited conversation on this thing here. So I'm going to play it. It's a minute and some. I'm going to play it twice, and then we'll talk about it.
People decided that they didn't really want to work. I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided that they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. You know, tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. You know, they have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40, 50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, you know, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance. I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment 15%, in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
Yeah, one thing with these white folks, boy, if you listen to enough of it, they'll tell you the truth, man. They'll show you how psychopathic they are, man. Interesting stuff. Pain needs to be felt in the economy, man. So you guys see Shooter Breeze topic number 3. Real Black Gentleman, what say you to it?
Well, I mean, he thought, you know what I'm saying, he was the brightest person in the room that day. Clearly, the drive for profit and higher profit margins and ever increasing profit margins. It's not enough, you know what I'm saying, to make, 300%. It's not enough to make 3 times your money, man. You heard, you know what I'm saying? Nowadays, you got to make, you know what I'm saying? You got to make $1 turn into, 500. It's like you know what I'm saying? With the GM, there's a strike with the car plants right now, and you know what I'm saying, in America. Chrysler, was it GM, Ford, and the Stellaris, the company that makes Jeeps and stuff. And the UAW, the United Auto Workers, are basically saying that in short, they want to make $300,000 for a 4-day work week, and they just had a snap strike. So you know what I'm saying? The CEO, their counter argument is that to do so would drain the company of liquid cash in order for research development and overall operating expenses. And so there is a big deal about, you know what I'm saying, this is where, companies and corporations especially don't really want to share the wealth. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to do it. And you know what I'm saying? Like what this guy's saying, like he like I said, he really thought he was the smartest person in the room when he said that. He really thought that he was, look, I think I have a good idea. I think I think we really gotta bring pain. And you know what I'm saying? We gotta really, you know what I'm saying, let these old peons know, you know what I'm saying, like benefits and all that. No. You work for me. I'm your everything. And if you don't like it, you know what I'm saying, you can go out here and have a short life and be brutish. You know what I'm saying? He wants that will to power so bad. You can, you know what I'm saying? I see your true colors coming through. You know what I'm saying? He wants that just hard iron grip over his dominion and anything in it, unlimited. You know what I'm saying? It's like capitalism needs a cap sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like at times, you know what I'm saying? It needs a cap. There's nothing wrong with, enterprise and venturing and really coming up and getting all of yours. And I want people to get all of theirs. But when we're in this corporatized structure, you know what I'm saying? If you have your own business, it's different. But if you're in a corporatized structure, you know what I'm saying? Highly corporatized, you know what I'm saying? With subsidies from the government and all that. Yo, this money, like if people putting in, unique inputs and unique, you know what I'm saying, innovations, you know what I'm saying? That, no, like, you know, maybe the union in the UAW case is a bit overreaching. They want a bit much, but what they're trying to do is say, like, look, this is what we really deserve if we're being honest about it. And by saying that, they're saying that, look, you know, in a lot of companies, you know what I'm saying, in this country, in the world, that, like, look, you know, a lot of this, you know, what's the CEO make of McDonald's? They make $44 million a year. You know what I'm saying? And the entry level worker, you know what I'm saying, struggling to make, you know what I'm saying, 10, you know what I'm saying, 10, 12, and so. I mean, you gotta have some kind of naturalness about profit divvying. If I'm in a company for 30 years, you know what I'm saying, like, I make a significant portion of that profit in the overall company, even if it's a company of 1,000 people, you know what I'm saying, the company itself, you know what I'm saying, or, you know what I'm saying, 1 million people, you know what I'm saying, that you know what I'm saying, institutional memory is priceless. You know, trying to retrain someone is a big deal. It takes a lot of time to do that. That's what companies don't think about. You know what I'm saying? When you're just in an ownership position, you don't really think about, you know what I'm saying, what it takes to, you know, make the company. You just have expectations that you just spit out. And you know what I'm saying? You want to be, you know what I'm saying, top delegator. You know what I'm saying? That's what a lot of these people are. They're not about it. They want to be the keenest delegators in the world. You know what I'm saying? I see something, you know what I'm saying? That kind of, I see something energy that's not right. And I need someone else to do something about it. I said do something. You know what I'm saying? That's that white boy's energy right there. I'm going ahead and pass. Let somebody else talk.
I hope y'all picked up on what RBG was really putting down in what he said. I like it. But at the end of the day, we still got to look at this fucking crazy white boy. And the fact that we let this crazy white, not particularly this guy, but guys like this archetype, we let them design and control the realities that we live in, man. That's where we are fucking up. Buano, what say you?
No, I think that he is a fossil, and he's following a old model, a version of how economies work in terms of capitalism. He is dependent on the ignorance of his employees to make him all the money. You know, that whole 30-year work for 30 years and then retire with a gold watch. He's a fossil, and he doesn't understand that because of COVID, the economies have changed. It's changed. You know, we are currently living in a so-called knowledge-based economy, in the information age, you know, where people are using the skills what they would have acquired for 10, 20, 30 years or whatever, and they are selling it for their own right, on their own right. You know, people are learning how to be mechanics online by Udemy and different websites like that. Even the so-called social economy, you know, some women have cut on cameras on OnlyFans and they're making millions of dollars a year. You know, they automation with the invention of the so-called internet has changed the game dramatically. You know, so now where if a person from a small town only had, you know, one factory where he could possibly make money, now he uses the little bit of knowledge that he may have accrued somewhere. He cuts on his laptop, and, you know, he gets a Stripe account and a business account, and he's able to do things online where he couldn't do that in the past. You know, so what these guys are trying to do is instead of signing career contracts and paying certain, like, health care, dentists and all this other, they offer contractual work, which is fine for some people, because some people only want contractual. They only want to work for 6 months and then off to another company where they can make a certain amount of money if you're doing computers and things like that. You know, I think that the game has changed and he is not changing with it, because people now who have some sense about themselves are using the so-called knowledge-based economy to move differently in terms of how they feed their families. You know, some people, some 18, 21-year-old with a laptop working in Thailand makes millions of dollars a year online. You know, because he finds his own clients, he finds his own bag. You know, and I think that some of these people need to get with the times, because if you have certain amount, if you have accrued any skill set right now in the so-called knowledge-based economy, there will be people willing to pay for it, even at $19. One course they buy $19.95. you know, and if you multiply that by what 500, 1,000, you good for a year, and then on to the next thing. I think that people are clever and they're working out different arrangements in the economies, this economy of scale that we currently live in, and him trying to put the so-called close the Pandora box, where it's just one person you completely depend on for your life, your lifehood, you know, your life uh, savings or whatever, however you live and exist in the world. That's changed, and he is not changing with that. So his attempt at make putting pain in the economy is going to be futile unless you cut off the internet. And that's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So people are figuring out different kinds of ways and means, whether it's by creating side hustles for themselves or whether they figuring out how to use the internet, how to use the internet to find a way to galvanize and make money for themselves. You know, I think the game has changed, and this old model that he is trying to push off towards people is laughable. To me, he's a dinosaur. He's just a dinosaur. That's how I look at him. But I'll leave it there.
You know, Buana, I agree with much of what you said, but I push back on a couple of things. I don't think he's this dinosaur who doesn't get it. I think he is speaking past those people that you're talking about, the people who will make a hustle over the internet. I think he's speaking about the fact that there are people who just won't technologize themselves. They are just going to go and be the workers, the cog in the wheel for the corporate elite. And I think he's talking about.
Go ahead, Coco. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
No. Go ahead.
No, I understand what you're saying, because there are always going to be people like that. In Coco, you are a professor. You probably understand that in life you will have winners and losers. You have some people who get it and some people who don't. The people who get it, it won't move past them in terms of how to move. They'll invest in watching certain things and learning how to do certain things and try to move different. But for the masses, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. But for people in the Western world, in particular for people in North America or any Western country, they have the access that most of the world do not, in terms of using the technology that they have to enrich themselves. So if you right now, you almost have to make a decision to not inform yourself and just sit on a job under a fluorescent light for 30 years and not do nothing besides what you're doing. You have to decide to do that. You know what I mean? Because there's so much different avenues living in the Western world. If you're living in a third world country, maybe that's an arguable conversation to have, maybe. But even in the so-called third world economy right here, it's difficult to see. For me, did what I was necessary to get a foreign account. You know, many people will go to Miami, they can get a U.S. account to try to move different, yeah, to try to get paid at other places and spaces. So I understand that perspective, and in that regard, he is absolutely right. I'm saying that for some people who will escape, they will use the technology at their hand instead of making crazy videos. Look, the girl just now, Coco, get $40,000 offer. Shall we say, I can say a scam, but shall we say an alleged accusation? She could be able to pay for medical school in no time. You know what I mean? And she don't seem like the brightest person off the porch. So either you sink, we live in an economy, either you decide to sink or swim. And some brothers gonna swim, and some brothers, unfortunately, and usually it's the masses, they gonna sink. Because they gonna get into the nonsensical jargon of back and forth, not realizing the landscape has changed. COVID has changed the game dramatically. For 2 years, many people did go to work, because he said they wasn't doing nothing. Many people did go to work, but they used their laptops. Now that COVID somewhat has passed, they say, well, hey, if I could do this here, I could do this in other spaces as well. Why do I have to go to a brick and mortar? Why do I have to go to a brick and mortar? So this is the question these brick and mortar guys are trying to solve. And there's a conundrum going on, because some people, not all, have decided to empower themselves in this game. But I'll leave it there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. He still is right because he's talking about the masses. The masses don't usually, if they have the internet, they don't use it for anything productive. You know, and then if we talk about the world, you know, what's someone on the interior of the continent, our continent, gonna be doing? You're gonna be part of the masses, and this is what, and that's the thing we gotta change because we haven't talked about that part. These people are in control, and the idea that they could just intentionally inflict pain. The man said raise uh, unemployment by 40-50%. You know, the idea that you just fire people just for show.
You raise the reason why you say that is if you raise the level of paying or if you raise employment, then you could charge people less per hour for what they actually worth is. With like some person who might make $15, $20, $50, $100 an hour, when you start firing and laying off, they will be desperate, so they'll be willing to do the same work for less. You know,
Yeah,
so that's the intention. Yeah.
yeah, that's what he's pushing. That's exactly what he's pushing. And because, as the prompt said, I should find the original prompt, right? As the prompt said, and shout out to KW Don 7 and Jose. I don't think I addressed Jose. Shout out to Bakari, who just came up in the chat as well. But yeah, like the prompt says, the majority of the working class, that you know, those masses, those people who rely on this job, this is the situation they're in. This is why we gotta get serious about changing this bullshit situation. We just got to get serious about it. Before I go to Black Steel, just want to point out for the last prompt, Jose Bronze in the chat said, "Yep, Netherlands loneliness is also becoming an issue," and I think that's kind of fascinating. I'm aware that there's lonely people, but I wasn't aware that there's some people groups are actually addressing it. I think that's kind of interesting. I think that's kind of interesting, and I do think loneliness is something that needs to be addressed because we are not supposed to be solitary beings like that. But I digress. Black Steel, you heard everything Buana and RBG said in the chat. What say you to all of it?
Well, we have to realize that most people are not going to go out there and start their own business, unfortunately. And even if they did, those businesses would still need workers. So it's not feasible for everybody to go online and have a business. Now, this cracker here, he was the one who said that people couldn't buy homes because they're spending their money on avocado toast. He's completely out of touch with the day-to-day life of ordinary people. But there is a concept. When Karl Marx did an examination of political economy, he talked about what's called the reserve army of labor. So basically, it refers to the unemployed people in a society. In order for capitalism to function, there is a requirement that a certain amount of the population must be unemployed because you need to be able to draw from this reserve pool of labor. So that case your workers decide to get too angry or too uppity and demand more money, you can just fire them and then you can draw from the reserve pool of labor and have those other people work in their place. So that way, the reserve pool of labor serves as two functions. Basically, it serves as a scare tactic. You could be out on the street homeless, or alternatively, it keeps the capitalists with a steady supply of people ready to take your job. You don't want to work for $15 an hour? Fine. I know somebody who'll work for 12 because it's better than living on the street. So what he's saying is he really wants to have the reserve pool of labor to be increased. And that in of itself is bad enough. But then when you combine that with the increase in interest rates. So here in the US, the federal government recently raised the interest rates on credit cards, mortgages, whatnot. So, and they understood that by raising the interest rates, it was going to make things more difficult for people. And they did it anyway, because the idea is to bring the working class people who go to work every day. Most black people, working class people. Most black people get up, go to work every day, take care of their kids. Most Americans already live paycheck to paycheck. I don't know what it is in other countries. I know here in the US, most of us live paycheck to paycheck. Most Americans can't afford $1,000 emergency if something were to go down. So by increasing unemployment, you put more stress on working class people, which means they're more willing to accept things they normally wouldn't accept. And when it comes to black people, we're usually the first fired. We're usually the last hired. So that puts more stress on our communities. You have more people having to work multiple jobs, having to move back in with their parents. It becomes a situation that becomes untenable. But also at the same time, this man unknowingly is creating the conditions for people to actually become more militant. Now, I don't think that's going to happen here in the U.S. I think that most Americans are too indoctrinated. They're not. I don't want to say intelligent enough, but I mean they're not intelligent. I'm just going to say it. Most Americans can't read above a 6th grade level, and that's real talk. So I think that what's going to happen in the U.S. is that as more of these financial crises come down on us, you're going to see, and we're starting to see it already. You're going to see a turn towards more fascism, towards more of regressive of society, people lashing out and attacking the most vulnerable people in the society. Who's the most vulnerable? Black people, immigrants. You're going to start to see more violence directed towards those people. Because one thing about white people, I think it was what's that cracker name? Winston Churchill. He said you can always count on Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else. So, and I hate to quote him because he was a racist bastard, but the point is that we're going to see more violence in the country. As more of these economic things happen, we're going to see more violence in society, mainly directed at black people, mainly directed at people who are the most vulnerable in society. What we really have to do is understand, especially African people, that we have to create systems and structures to empower ourselves. And it's not going to be not just to work somebody's job, but the entire system of capitalism itself has to be done away with. I'll leave it there. Thank you, Coco.
Black Steel, would you say that black folks in America was at their best when their backs was against the wall or when they was most comfortable? Understanding the history. Yeah. Go ahead, brother.
I would say this. My grandmother was born in 1923. She died in 2000. She's in her 70s. But her little brother's still alive. My grandmother's brother, my uncle, great uncle. And I think that many times we look back at those times during segregation and Jim Crow, and I think we're looking at it through the lens of history. But black people in those times, they didn't have adequate food, they didn't have adequate clothing. You had starvation, you had you couldn't even walk down the street without a white person jumping on you. Not to say that doesn't happen now, but at least in America, it used to be a white person could slap you, call you a nigga, and you couldn't do nothing about it but go home and cry. Now at least there's some remedies to it. So I think that looking at the history, our backs being against the wall is not a good thing. And I think that many times some people think that if we were to, and I think that's kind of what Clarence Thomas's his thinking is, that if you take away black people's rights, if you put their backs to the wall, then they'll be forced to rise up and fight for what really matters. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I think that the more destitute that makes us, I don't think it's going to increase our revolutionary fervor if black people are down in the back, down dirty, struggling to survive. I don't think so.
But black Steel, if I can make the argument, during the times when he's talking about your grandmothers and things like that, right? That's when he got the Thurgood Marshalls. I mean, I don't know what you think about him. It seemed like the most notable people come out in terms of struggle. It seems like the most notable people came out of that experience, and it seems like now, where you live in a situation where there are more, shall I say, comforts in the Western world. The face of the white supremacists is a smiley face now. We are tolerant now. You know, now what we seeing is a whole lot of ratchet culture. So I would think, and I could be completely wrong about this, but I would think that, and I could put this for Haiti and our country and different countries of the world as well. It seems like black people seem to be on their game when they have to be on their game, when they have no other choice. Even the Panthers, you're a Panther guy. Even the Panthers came out of the fact that abuses was happening in their communities where they had no choice. J.F. Gover was doing this nonsense. So the best of the people came out of these kinds of movements. So I feel like sometimes, maybe I be wrong, but sometimes I feel like to get us to move, to get us to animate ourselves, to get us to not to be so lethargic, and it's like, well, I think that sometimes we have to, sometimes struggle has to happen. Let me put it like that.
I mean, I agree that the struggle has to happen, but I don't think that we have to be destitute and living hand to mouth in order for that to happen. I think that when you look at the Panthers, what they were trying to do was to free people from those conditions. They didn't want to continue the conditions to create revolutionaries. Because at what point, where does it end? What's the end game? Do we continuously struggle? Once we get free, if things get good, we slack off. It's back to struggle. So
Oh, but
where does it? Yeah.
but Black Steel, this is right now. The culture doesn't believe that the struggle is even there. You have black folks saying that they ain't even black no more. They saying they Indians and what's that Hebrew Israel. Well, let me don't get into that. I'm just saying that I'm just saying that there was a point in time where saw a whole lot of unity galvanized around we are black. Period. End point. We ain't trying to segment ourselves into these different, because we have one common enemy, and we gonna work against this common enemy. Period. We ain't drinking for colored only fountains. F that. This is our specific purpose. We want proper housing. Yes. We want to go to schools, proper schools. We want the schools to reflect the educational experience of actually going there. These in the 20s to say, well, we need universities. We just come out of slavery, so we need to educate ourselves. So black folks in a situation coming out of slavery they educated themselves to a degree that was unprecedented in American society. I feel like that, and their box was against the wall because of that. You know what I mean? They was forced to do it. Now you have the comforts of the Western world. What are we doing? What are we doing, Black Steel? You know what I mean? What are we doing? What are we doing? So I don't know. I don't know. I feel like sometimes with us, to get us to animate ourselves, sometimes our back must be against the wall. Maybe that's the Clarence Thomas position. I don't want to take Clarence Thomas' position, but I feel like sometimes to animate ourselves, that's what's necessary and needed. Because the black people can go to sleep, Black Steel. They can go to sleep and go off into all manner of nonsense. Nonsense. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I want to underscore the fact that black people are in the condition that we're in, not through any lack of skill on our part, any laziness on what we're doing, but we have to understand that our enemy has never really relented. We have to. They create laws and systems whenever we get ahead, whenever we have any type of advance. And I would ask, outside of superficial things, what we're still dealing with many of the issues that our ancestors faced with. Hell, I mean, we're still dealing with voting rights, and black people supposedly got the right to vote in the 1860s. Yeah, we're still dealing with many of the same problems. I don't think it's because that we're slacking off or we're not putting in effort. I think that we're just I think we don't really understand the fight that we're in, and we're not taking this. We have to understand it's a fight for our survival in our lives, and we have to continue to move that way. I think sometimes we forget that when we get a victory or something good happens, we can't slack off. We have to continue to press the advantage. Many times we react to things happening instead of being, staying sustained and being a protracted struggle. We get comfortable. Oh, cop got arrested. Okay, we can sit back. Then it's another person. Somebody lost their house and you win a lawsuit. Then we can think we've done something. But I think that we just can't lose sight of the goal. I don't want to see any Black people suffer. I think we suffered enough. All of us, no matter in the U.S. or anyplace else.
Yeah, Black Steel, you said something very important just now, extremely important. You said that our enemies have not relented. And the question is, have we relented? And I believe that is true. I believe we relented because the image, the symbol, Barack Obama in office. Oh, some people still saying, well, we passed this whole color dynamic now because we have a black president in office. Oh, Kamala Harris, she's the first female black president. So now, we could, kick back now since we have made the gains that Martin Luther King once wanted. He said, one day we'll have a black president. So some black people have relented. And I'm saying that you can't relent in the middle of a battle. The battle ain't over yet. And some people actually believe these things. They believe them things on Black Steel, So I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm talking from a distance and I can't see what's actually happening on the ground. And you would know that better than I would.
So what's going on in the Bahamas? I mean, Bahamas is a
Oh,
majority.
Jesus Christ. These people here are, oh, goodness, man. I don't want to talk now because you get some Bahamian listeners. But the scenario, oh God.
That bad, huh?
And let me say this. I'll put it like this. The awareness that Black Americans have in some issues in terms of color, and some issues in terms of race, and some issues of power dynamic, I wish that we had those sensibilities. But I think that I would always say that after independence, quote unquote independence, that we should have went through a process of decolonization. And the leaders of the country didn't know that because they were still colonized. They were still colonized. So there are ceremonies that exist in the Bahamas that's still remnants of British society. What I mean? We still have honors given from the crown. We still have a governor general, and the duty of the governor general was really to be the queen in place of the queen not actually being here. So that's what the representative of the governor general. That should not exist in a so-called independent country. Independence means you are free of. Oh goodness, I could go on and on. The laws of this country are still. We have not changed the laws of this country to fit the society we currently exist in. For the culture and the customs of an independent nation, we still have laws that is echoes of English society that should not exist. I could go on. We still have a statue of Columbus. Could you imagine? We still have a statue of Columbus on one of our. This is true. I could go on for hours. We still have a statue of Queen Victoria. I could go deeper. We have a statue of Queen Victoria in Parliamentary Square. Do you know who Queen Victoria was? Oh my goodness, man. I could go on for years. And I try. There was a politician. They come to the different houses and to try to get people to vote for them. I don't know, Koku knows. How to, and so in my area we have different constituencies. So there was a person who tried to come to get me out because I said, listen, brother, I am a Gaviite, and as I was speaking to him, you could see the people who was with him, like they 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 had their mouth open. I'm a black nationalist. Why would I vote in terms? I don't believe in the parliamentary system. I just he was just looking at me like I was crazy, like I was literally insane. So there's a lot of work to be done. For me, the reason that I have actively chosen not to involve myself in the political sphere in the Bahamas is even if I was to get into government, It's very difficult because, first of all, you have to get into parliament, to be a representative of the Bahamas, you have to swear to the Queen, her heirs, and successors on the Bible. Yeah, this is what you have to do. Not only I can listen, Black Steel. The lawyer in the Bahamas, we still wearing the white wigs. I'm like, I can't put that shit on. Listen, brother. I could go on for days. The freedoms that you all enjoy in America, I envy. I see some things that, like I say, I don't like to involve myself into internal politics of other men's countries. But oh goodness, I could go for days. You know, but I just need it because this is a fun show. Somebody mic is open. This is a fun show for me. This is something that I enjoy because you get to engage in high-minded intellectual dialogue. But this doesn't exist in my world. This doesn't exist in my world. You know, but this is something that I know of a world where we could have free discussions, we could have free dialogues, we could have dialogues that is something as progressive, and I enjoy these dialogues. But these things don't exist in my world, brother. I gotta tell you. You know, I'll leave it there, man. I'm rambling.
That's very disturbing. I had no idea. I mean, I think that there is a position for political education. I think that has to be done all over the diaspora, really. That political education for African people needs to be a paramount thing. I don't think we need to suffer. I think maybe we need to reach out and educate our people about the contradiction. I mean, I think many of us are aware of the contradictions in society. We just have to, as Fred Hammond said, we have to raise the contradictions and educate our people. And I think we can start there. I think that would be maybe more effective in kind of pushing us back to Jim Crow, antebellum slavery.
Yeah, everything Juana said there is I second everything he's saying there. Trust me. I think Real Black Jungle want to say something, but your mic was creating an echo. Go ahead now.
My bad. I third what you're saying. Like the Bahamas, geospatially from the United States, right? It's a zone that, I mean, you know, people might know something about Canada and what's going on in Canada. Some people might know what's going on in Mexico and what's going on in Mexico. People might have the idea what's going on in Cuba, but there's a fourth country that's very close to the United States. It's right there. It's called the Bahamas. And because it's a very, broad area of our people that, Black people in America are not, we go to the island. No. What's going on with the people? There was a whole hurricane, when that hurricane came by. And I mean, the Bahamas are very, very, very low lying. So any kind of like storm surge is devastating. These are things that the way that American, people here with materials can just on some interest, business, build something up type stuff and just have a position, this being on an island. This is why Britain has interest in it. It's the location, like they say in real estate, it's the location. I mean, it's everything. It's if you know what I'm saying? These things are important. And I mean, as for Bwana saying not wanting to say anything please, you aren't saying anything. Your viewpoint into America, you know what I'm saying? Imagine if you were sitting a very on a pedestal, looking into America. You have a clear idea what's going on in America, a lot more than the people in frankly probably Puerto Rico or anywhere else. Of course you should speak up because you're right there. Hey, brothers. I see that they kind of doing these movements. I can sense it. If I just have these, you should say that. I would encourage it. I'm not going to say, don't say anything because you're not fuck that gap in the sea. You see something. You see something closer to someone in Hawaii, talk. You know what I'm saying? I third it. You know what I'm saying? That's all I wanted to say. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you, brother. The reason why sometimes our relationship with our American brothers, for people who don't have, because my brother, people who have intimate relationships with our Black American brothers, the relationship we have, the formal relationship is, and this is going to be controversial, but it's a relationship as we are your servants. That's controversial to say. But like explain it. When Black Americans come here, we are usually the porters who carry your bags. We fix your beds. We make sure y'all have a good time. Y'all having a good time. We taxi y'all from here and there and things like that. But in terms of going deeper, in terms of the real relationship of brotherhood, that's not really there because of the so-called economy and the industry that's here. There's a barrier. You all have that American passport. We have that Bahamian passport. So there's something else that comes along with that arrangement. Some of our children get to go to your colleges and universities, so we see the different sides. But for the typical rank and file Black person in this country, this is the engagement that we have. Unless we have these kinds of conversations. This is why I appreciate the internet sometimes, because we are able to talk a little bit deeper, you know. And this is the reason why I feel like in Africa, sometimes when Black Americans or Black Western people from the UK or Canada go to Africa, some people say, well, y'all is the white man. Y'all is the white man. Because the only relationship we have is the industry that we work in and how we are introduced to our brothers coming from distant places. It's not a brotherly one. It's just a business one. They say, well, and some Black Americans decry, or Canadians or people from the UK, why y'all only want money from us? This is our first introduction. And I feel like that introduction needs to change because there's something deeper there. And we need to involve ourselves in the real lives of one another. Because the only relationship that currently exists is, okay, you have an American passport, you're American, so I have to see you as that and treat you as that. So it's a situation or arrangement of master servant. That's effed up to say. But if I'm being honest, currently because of the economic system in terms of tourism, quote unquote, I can say the plantation system, that is the current arrangement. And my attempt is to try to change that in our dialogues and our conversations. So you could, whenever you think about a Caribbean person, you may have to, you only think about a coconut and a Bahama mama, you know, with a straw in his mouth. You can think a little bit deeper. There's something beyond that straw in his mouth and Bahama mama and smoking dope and reggae music, you know. So, so this is the reason why I love to dialogue with my brothers internationally. And Coco too. Coco ain't gonna tell you that. He too refined to tell you say something like that. But he knows though. He knows very well. But I'll leave it there. I'll leave it.
I really appreciate what Trigger Happy said. We have to be really aggressive on the capitalist question because it is this economic system that we are under that allows us to see our brothers and sisters as mere commodities for exploitation. Bringing it back to the original prompt, you know, we have to really be questioning and work to undermine, overthrow. And I think capitalism is doing a good job of fucking itself up in the foot, but maybe we need to push it along a little bit further because what it does to our personhood, to how we relate to each other, is that we see each other as commodities. We see each other as goods and services, and we don't really look at the true person. We, like you said, we're not really relating to each other as brothers. And I think that's something that that Garvey understood way back in the 1900s, that regardless of your nationality, what flag you're born on, you're still Africans. We could very well have been from the same village in Africa. And if we don't come to a better understanding of that, I think we're going to continue to see the system deteriorate. So I'll leave it there. I know we're getting late. We're going on to the next prompt. So thank you.
It's all good. I love the conversation that we had there. And that last conversation with Buana and RBG, I particularly appreciate it because, yeah, Buana is right about that relationship. I can remember when I first started to see that back home, you know, the black tourists is just not, the relationship is just transactional, you know, and I wish there was a way we could change that. I wish that, you know, like in home country, someone's mic is open. Like in my home country, I wish that we could do something different with that tourism thing, where black tourists can come and really get to know who a Bahamian is, what a Bahamian is. I wish there was a way they would change that. And from my understanding, Jamaica has a similar issue too, wherein the black tourists just go to a resort and kind of hang around that, and you might get a peek at some poor folks in Jamaica on the way there. But yeah, I wish there was a way we could really make that experience something more than what it currently is. In the chat, I agree with Trigger Happy here. He says, can't have true brotherhood with an economic system and political philosophy that says everything is me, 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 and not us, us, us. We must be aggressive on the capitalist question. Afro-Native World said to Buana, what about brothers and sisters that will tell you we're not American? We're black like you and see you as brothers. You don't meet folks like us there? I'll let Buana speak to that now, actually. Buana, what say you?
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like there are black Americans and black Nigerians, because you have Nigerians who actually live here. You know, the Nigerians, they fix my tires all the time. You know, I like the Nigerians. You have relationships with people from different parts of the world who live here. You have Bahamians who marry people from the Western world, and Canadians and Europe, black English and other countries and things like that. So the relationship moves. You know, it's not only a situation where it becomes a master servant relationship, because the arrangement, the intimacy involved is a little bit different. You know, and there are stars who come here, so-called stars in your world, like Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal is go to the hood, you know, be ride up on bicycle and things like that, because he's a dude. So he go past the whole paradigm of, I'm a big star in the Bahamas, man. That's Shaq, you know, in the hood doing Shaq nonsense, you know, because he familiarizes himself with the people who live here. He said, I'm just American. I'm just as black as you. You know, they condescend and come into different areas and relating to the people differently. So they're able to see another side outside of that so-called ridiculous tourism creation. And we are able to relate differently with one another. But if you come to these areas and you just stick with what the tourist paradigm is, which is a tourist paradigm that's created by some South African man who have nothing to do with the human society, or some white guy who bought a hotel and he only wants you to restrict you to these specific areas, then you really don't get a fundamental understanding of the country that you come to. The only perspective you get is a Bahama mama and a straw hat and ganja and some reggae music. You know, this whole uh it's like almost like if you're in America, or if you've never been to America, where you create these little parodies of what black culture is. You know, back in the day, they had the whole concept of what the black man is in America. This dancing happy Negro on a plantation, tap dancing. And for people who never really interact with a black American, they'll think, well, that's him, because they create these narratives. So this is the narrative that they create for the Caribbean people. Unless Caribbean people interact on a more on an intimate basis, not in terms of sex, but more on an intimate basis with other peoples of the world, then they say, "Oh, okay, that's not true." But if they see the paradigm that exists, nah, I know Bahamian people, you know, nah, that's nonsense. You know, it's almost like when we watch movies, Caribbean people watch movies, and we hear someone pretending that he's a Jamaican, say that's not a Jamaican accent, that's nonsense. You know, or right away, you know, because you have done the work in terms of engaging with the people from different countries. You know, if I never knew that about Nigeria, the only thing I know about Nigerian is scam artists. But I met highly intelligent Nigerian folks, hardworking, independent, doing their thing. Even Haitians, there's a narrative about Haitian people. Many people don't know there are some Haitians who are multi-millionaires and never been to the United States of America. But this is not what these people sell to the world. So All I'm saying is sometimes with us, we need to get beyond the surface level and go beneath that a little bit. And then we'll discover that there's so much more there, you know? But I'll leave it because I'm rambling.
That's all good. Something you said in there made me remember there was a time when they used to describe Bahamians as beach bums. Beach bums. I find that interesting. But anyway, I digress. Let's go shoot the breeze topic number 4. Usually I would pause here to do station ID, but you know the deal. Check out all the other shows like Brother Bakari, who was in the chat earlier, The4Kast, Realm in the Bush, who was in the chat earlier, that's Cassidra Cheek. Oni will probably be on in the morning. He's in the continent, so he can't be on Shoot the Breeze like that. Tanzan and Hash Shawty Podcast. Let's hope that they're back soon too. Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 tonight is what is going on in white families. Where are the fathers? This takes us to YouTube. Let me share the link. You guys, we'll watch it and then we'll, discuss.
Teenager in a pond in. A white 14-year-old boy is out on bail after prosecutors say he tried to drown a black teenager in a pond in Chatham. And as WBZ's Louisa Moeller tells us, today in court, we learned this isn't the only racially motivated accusation against him.
You can see 14-year-old John Sheeran leaving court after his bail hearing, briskly walking and barely saying a word as he got into a car with his father. A judge said he can live in Chatham on a GPS device.
Mr. Sheeran, do you want to...
This all stems from an incident in July where a 15-year-old black boy says Sheeran texted him to come to a Chatham pond. Then Sheeran and another boy allegedly threw rocks at this boy and asked him to come into the water. The young man does not know how to swim and wore a life jacket. That's when investigators say Sheeran repeatedly pulled him under the water, once called him the N-word, and another boy called him George Floyd.
This young man, Jack Sheeran, held onto his life jacket and pulled me under the water and back and up and back repeatedly about 4 to 5 times. While doing it, water went into the victim's mouth and nose, and he could not breathe. He started to shout, "I can't breathe," over and over again, and tried to get Mr. Sheeran's hands off him. Mr. Sheeran let go, and the other child started laughing. He called him George Floyd.
The boys allegedly did stop when another child on the beach swam over to intervene. Sheeran's defense attorney, Kevin Reddington, says it was reckless teenage behavior, not attempted murder.
This young man has absolutely no intent to murder his friend.
Is your client remorseful?
Of course, absolutely.
All of these details were heard in court as community members listened, and some of them say what resulted was not justice.
This young man was lucky he didn't lose his life, but someone attempted to do that. Why would you hold somebody down knowing he's saying, "I can't breathe"? He feared for his life.
Hours after the July incident, the prosecutor says that Sheeran punched a 13-year-old Asian boy in the face after that boy called him fat. Attorney Reddington says that his client apologized to that boy's family and they declined to press charges. In Barnstable, Louisa Moeller, WBZ News.
I hope you guys could have heard that well. I just realized my mic was open during that time, but I didn't see anyone say anything, so I guess you guys could have heard it. Not surprised by that story, but I kind of like the prompt. What is going on in white families? Where are the fathers? RBG, what say you to this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Did you know that black fathers are more likely to stay in their children's lives than any other group of people? Did you know that? White fathers are more likely to not be involved with their children's lives. You know what I'm saying? Just simple statistics. But this definitely, this dude looks like he has some evil intent. He looks like he definitely has the build for evil intention. Look at that triple chin there. Look at that well-developedness. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knew what he was going to do. He was going to just like skate on what he was going to do. He was going to do what he was going to do. And you know what I'm saying? If our people did not keep fighting and just make attention, I mean, Lord knows. I mean, I can't breathe. I mean, how hollering, I don't know how far away he was from anyone else. Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, you know, they need to waterboard him and show him what that's like to not be able to breathe. They need look, man, it's disgusting. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, you know, deal, if you're young, you gotta like deal with that. But that's ugh. And then, you know what I'm saying? It's not just him. What about the trial for the other person? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? There was 2 people, he said. Yeah, go ahead and let him. I mean, the problem is like he looks like he's probably a juvenile. So if he were, if he had to do jail time, he would be out at 18. You know what I'm saying? Probably didn't have some probation. So it's like, look, I would, you know what I'm saying? He's talking about George Floyd. This is some adult stuff. This, you know what I'm saying? This is like, you know what I'm saying? This is some level stuff where it's like, you know what I'm saying? Ideally, you know what I'm saying? You sit him down for about, you know what I'm saying? 6 to 7 on some attempted shit. No, that's all I got to say.
Sorry. I always wonder, who are these lawyers that represent these black folks in these cases? Who are these people? How come they don't bring up certain things? Like, this kid mentioned George Floyd. That takes away a level of innocence there. Like, who are the people who be representing these black folks and taking these losses all the time? If you know something with Benjamin, these guys take losses all the time. Losses or payout. Like, who are these people? You know? Anyway, in the chat, Trigger Happy 262 said, this is Indo-European culture, nothing else to say. KW7 says, you are not supposed to be hanging around Urugu by yourself. The black parents are living in La La Land. I agree with that too. I mean, at this point, black folks still don't know. You don't have yourself, you know, yourself as an adult around these people, much less your children. Blacks, Buana, what say you to all of it?
Let me first say, I hope RBG has 100 children. I hope he has 100 children. You know, I remember we did a prompt last week where a black teacher was attributing nefarious characteristics onto a black child. So this shows where RBG say, look at his chin. You know, that interview, he look at this child how he should be looked at. You know, he criminalize him. Yeah, criminalize it. This is the proper perspective for individuals to have. You know, his biases came in, and this is the biases that you need to have. You know, maybe that teacher should have been married to RBG. You know, to influence her a little bit. You know, because this is the way how you supposed to attribute the character. Because this guy was able to get out of the courtroom, and I think that his probation was house arrest. House arrest. No. These little white criminals, young criminals. Are we gonna criminalize them? He was once in that same kindergarten when the teacher was looking at him and said, "No, I'm not gonna look at him. I'm gonna look at the black boy. I'm gonna look at the black boy instead of looking at him." And then 10 years later, he's drowning a guy calling him a black little child calling him George Floyd, who was more likely to commit the crime. So his perspective is right on target. You know, and I think that sometimes we forget that RBG wasn't on remote control, or if he was on the kind of remote control I appreciate. You know, where's his father? His father was right in the car with him. His father was cloaking him, protecting him. God knows how much money he had to bribe the lawyers and the judges in terms of him getting house arrest for attempted murder. Probably he didn't even have to pay a lot of money because it was just a black child. And as you all were saying earlier, black children are vulnerable. Why did his parents permit him to go out on some by himself on some excursion to play with a bunch of white kids, just willy nilly like that? What do they think? They think it's a free world? No, 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 no. You question that. Well, who are you going to play with? Why are you going down there? Oh, I need to come with you. I need to come go with you. You know, because anything could happen. These people are notorious. They are notorious with notorious intent. You know, you don't just let your child go. I'm about to go with my friends to the lake. With who? Get the hell out of here with that nonsense. You know, so where are the fathers? Where is the black father in this scenario? You know, the white father, he probably, told the child to call the boy. But the black father would have said, hell no, you don't going down there with RBG would have said, hell no, you don't going down there with them. No, with them. No, 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 no. You staying right here. Go read something. Go read something and tell me what you read inside of it. So as we discussed before earlier, in terms of being on remote control, this is the kind of remote control that I encourage in terms of how RBG looked at the scenario and situation, because these little white kids they are cut from the cloth of their own fathers and the societies they live in. He looked like Trump. He looked like a young version of Trump. So the only thing I would say is the parents, in terms of the black parents, fathers in particular, need to get in hand to these kinds of situations. And we don't live in a free world. Despite what the Western world says, there's no free world that we currently reside in. And you must protect your children because they are most vulnerable, in particular black children. I'll leave it there.
Thank you for that, Buana. In the chat, Erzuliism is out there. He said, I bet you they voted for Biden and Kamala. Why don't you come up, Erzuli? Erzuli be hiding in the chat, I noticed. Not saying nothing behind the scenes. KW7 said, Benjamin Crump is not there to prosecute Urugu. He's there to secure the buy. Yeah, absolutely. I forget the other guy who's kind of associated with him, another black guy with locks. I forgot his name. But these guys, who are these guys? Who are these guys? Who are these people who keep losing these cases in court? I mean, I know I know the shit is rigged, but like, where's the real fight in these cases? I'm kind of uncertain. Afro-Native World says this there rites of passage. Yeah, kill a black person. Last but not least, let's get to Black Steel. Black Steel, what say you?
So, like to Buana's point, yeah, the father was right there in the home. He probably learned it from him. So I'm gonna tell y'all a little story. So my son was in Boy Scouts when he was in 3rd grade, and I went with him to every scout meeting. He wanted to learn how to make a tent and campfires, all that other stuff. So I went with him. We were in the classroom. It was at a local church. So we're in Boy Scouts, and me and him are just sitting next to each other. So the scout leader starts talking about respect. And he says, there are some cultures that show respect by bowing. And he asked the kids in the class, he said, can you tell me some cultures that show respect by bowing? And this little white boy, I never forget this, he jumped up, he said, ooh, 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 I know, Ching Chong Chinese. And he does his eyes with a slant and everything. So his father's just looking there all horrified, like he can't believe his son did that. But that boy didn't learn that from the thin air. So I say that story to say that white people, Urugu, they teach their children racism. It's a cultural thing. It is something that they teach their children at a very young age. This young man, he tried to drown a black boy. He punched an Indian boy in the face. This white boy could be the next what's the actor Mark Wahlberg, who grew up in the Massachusetts, I think Boston area. So during his youth, Mark Wahlberg was very racist. He beat an Indian, South Indian man so badly he lost his eye. He used to throw rocks at black children during the time they were integrating the schools. He did a little time in prison. Now he comes out and he's Mark Wahlberg. Now he's the famous actor. I never forget how racist he was. But yeah, these children, These white children are being taught to hate other people. It's something that's so deeply ingrained within their culture. As far as the attorneys, I agree also about letting black children play with white children. And I've played with white kids in the past, but it was always outside. I was never the only black kid there. I made sure I was never the only black child there. And as I got older, I just stopped really hanging out with them. But we have to prepare our kids. I mean, these white people are teaching their kids racism at an early age, but we're not teaching our children the ways to protect themselves. He should have never gotten it. I don't want to blame the victim, because this is not about him. He's an innocent victim. He should never have been. This never happened to him. But I think as a preventative measure, we have to understand that we are hated in this world. And I think it was Dr. Bobby Uri. He said we've been in this country 400 years and we still don't know how it works. And I think that's very true. So yeah, his father was right there with him. His father probably taught him that hate. He probably grew up listening the way his father felt about black people, about different races, and he just merely acted it out. And I think I just want to highlight the fact this boy was being charged with attempted murder, and he was able to go home. And I remember the young man, Khalif Browder in New York, who was accused of stealing a backpack, and he spent 3 years in Rikers Island. 2 of those years were in solitary confinement. And when they finally released him, based off of no evidence, he killed himself because of what he had went through and the psychological torture he had experienced in prison. So I just also want to highlight that these white people can try to kill you and they get to go home to their parents. We have to always keep our guard up. I'll leave it there, Coach. Thank you.
Anybody else want to add any last thoughts here? All right. Good discussion. Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 5 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5 says, have y'all covered this already? Epstein targeted youth in the U.S. Virgin Islands through his so-called education program. This came with a link. Let's see, it takes us to YouTube as well. So let's watch the video, and then we'll watch about 12 minutes of it, and then we'll have a discussion.
Now to Jeffrey Epstein, where many of you know in 2007, he was busted for sex trafficking. And that quietly went away. He got out of prison, and then it seems like he started specifically. Whitney Webb is the investigative journalist who's been covering the story and deep dive this her today on. Whitney, welcome back to the show.
Be here.
So this is a crazy story because we know about the sex trafficking in 2007. Then after he gets out, he turns his
I had to pause it. It seems like there's no sound. For some reason, my browser was acting up. So let me stop sharing the screen for a second. Let me see if I could quickly fix this. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to bounce out and come back. Let me restart the video. Hopefully the sound is back and we don't have this problem again. So I'll share the screen again. You guys let me know if there's sound.
And that quietly went away. He got out of prison. And then it seems like he started a couple of new companies specifically. Whitney Webb is the investigative journalist who's been covering this story. And I want to deep dive this with her today on the show. Whitney, welcome back to the show.
Hey, great to be here.
So this is a crazy story because we know about the sex trafficking in 2007. Then after he gets out, he turns his attention to the U.S. Virgin Islands and starts a new company, which I don't think many Americans have any idea about this part of the story. And we're just now starting to learn more and more about this. Can you take us through sort of the high level first, and then we'll dive into the nitty gritty, disgusting details?
Sure. So the company you're talking about here is called Southern Trust. And he had a few other companies tied up with it, including a bank. That were based on the Virgin Islands after he was arrested for sex trafficking in Palm Beach. And so after that happened, he seemed, like you said, to have directed his attention more to the Virgin Islands. And so this company in particular, Southern Trust, was created in 2012. And it describes itself as offering cutting-edge consulting services and as a DNA data mining firm that was trying to find clients specifically among big banks and big pharma. It described itself as sort of a biomedical Google that was trying to use people's genetic sequencing to determine what drugs would work best on them and all sorts of odd things. And even people in the testimony that he gave to this Economic Development Commission in the Virgin Islands were, very awestruck, I guess you could say, by how, unusual the company was framed as being and what's subject. And what's particularly important is that in a lawsuit that was filed by Denise George, who is the same Attorney General of the Virgin Islands that was fired after filing the Epstein JP Morgan case. She had another case targeting Epstein a few years prior. That lawsuit, and also a lawsuit filed by the New York Times, referred to Southern Trust as being a key part of Jeffrey Epstein's criminal activities. But as I said earlier, it was founded in 2012. So this is well after he was busted for sex trafficking the first time, and it was not a part of what he was charged with in 2019. So it seems like the Virgin Islands was really the only entity interested in going after him for this particular intention was based there. So what's interesting is if you look at the testimony, it doesn't talk about children. His testimony to this commission, he says what he wants to do is engage children early on to train them in programming and to run these artificial intelligence servers that are going to power these algorithms. And so the way he apparently did that was by funding a slew of initiatives targeting youth in the Virgin Islands, specifically mentally ill youth and underprivileged and poor children. And a lot of the those activities are eerily similar to the same ways that he recruited minors, underage girls in the United States, targeting underprivileged, economically underprivileged teenage girls and gifted children in music and the arts. And there's been no interest really in looking into this story among mainstream media, because why would someone, a known pedophile, be engaged in this type of activity? And we know now from the recent Wall Street Journal revelations that banks, prominent banks like the Edmund de Rothschild Group, was giving Southern Trust millions and millions of dollars in contracts. And it's just a very disturbing and overlooked story, and might shed some light on why the U.S. Virgin Islands, unlike a lot of jurisdictions in the U.S., are interested in going after a lot of the powerful people that enabled Epstein, particularly billionaires and some of these big banks.
It's crazy. It's truly disturbing. I mean, absolutely disturbing. It sounds like something out of like a Bond villain. Like if you were to write this as part of a movie, people would say, no, this is ridiculous. You're going to have a billionaire who's going to go to the Virgin Islands. He's going to seek out children in order to do biomedical research, implanting things in their brains. Yeah. And even in his testimony, I've gone through these documents that you've sent over, he talks about autistic children specifically. I think like a quarter of them were autistic as well. And did any of the parents
kids on the spectrum?
Yeah. So looking specifically for kids on the spectrum, did you get any insights into why he was doing that?
I think maybe what he was looking for were, I think people are probably familiar with the sort of savant characteristics of some autistic people, and he may have been looking for children and teens that sort of had those unusual abilities. But it's definitely very disturbing. And something he talks about in testimony of this Virgin Island mission of how he aggressively wants to genetically sequence the islander population because it's such an isolated community, and then talks about how those that genetic information can be used to determine how to educate these children that he wants to recruit to ostensibly work for his company in coding and programming. But again, as I mentioned earlier, he's targeting specifically underprivileged children, which is very disturbing in light of the similarities between that and what he was doing as part of his sex trafficking operation with Ghislaine Maxwell.
So there's the Epstein piece of this, of course, but then there's, he wasn't operating in a vacuum. You mentioned some of the associations that he's had with the different banks and the funding and sort of thing. But where do these tentacles lead? We know that the Virgin Islands has been struggling to subpoena Larry Page, Google's Larry Page, as part of the Epstein lawsuit. You've written extensively about JP Morgan Chase, of course, and Jamie Dimon putting up money, making sure that they were funding. So do we know specifically about this Southern Trust, like what other people were actively involved in it? You mentioned the Rothschilds, but anybody else? Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I saw those names, of course, popping up again in the testimony.
So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I didn't see pop up in this testimony specifically, but it does pop up in some of his simultaneous efforts to finance education, not just in the Virgin Islands, but in the United States.
Sorry, let me clarify. It wasn't in the testimony, but it was as part of this education process in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, so he was specifically trying to target a lot of his philanthropy hits, not just science, but also education. And a lot of these old press releases refer to Epstein as a prominent education patron and things of that nature. And, in some of my past work, I was able to show that back in 1998, he was going to places like school, visiting high school kids that were talented in science and math. And some of these pictures of him in these Russian classrooms, the only kid that's there looks like he's 8 or 9. He's just a single kid alone with Epstein and some of these other scientists that he was close to in the room. And, what it really disturbs me that no one has really bothered to look at this or scrutinize this in any capacity. And as far as Google and like Larry Page and Sergey Brin, so both of the Google co-founders are being subpoenaed by the U.S. Virgin Islands in connection with their investigations into Epstein. Larry Page is apparently so concerned about being served papers that he can't be found. They're trying to go through Alphabet, Google's parent company, because he's still on the board of Alphabet, to try and get access to him that way, but he really does not want to have to testify in this case, and that should be really telling. And in the context of Southern Trust, as I mentioned earlier, this was a company based around data mining. So what's particularly odd is that in New Albany, Ohio, the New Albany Company, which Epstein created on Leslie Wexner's behalf, was a partner in and invested money into, is the owner of the land on which a massive Google data center sits. Did Southern Trust have access to that information? What was going on there? There hasn't been a lot of scrutiny into that either. And it seems like, knowing that what we know, for example, about Sergey Brin being a regular visitor to Epstein's townhouse and all of this other stuff, it's certainly looking quite disturbing, especially when you consider that Google as a company has had intelligence connections from its inception and throughout its existence as a company. And you even have people like Julian Assange pointing out that Google is not what it seems, and is essentially operating as its own intelligence agency and as a front for Hillary Clinton's State Department at the time that he wrote that. Wrote a
Right.
book.
Was it 500 million that they took from the CIA, and of course, and the back end infrastructure, of course, of Google, equally tied to the intelligence community.
At the time, Epstein and also Leslie Wexner have their intelligence ties and ties also to criminal activity that I covered extensively in my book. So why are these actors coming together, and what's going on? What was going on with this data mining firm targeting children, and genetic information of people in the U.S. Virgin Islands and all of this stuff in the Google data center? I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions here, but I mean, considering what's coming out, it definitely seems increasingly disturbing. And another thing that I found really oh, sorry.
No, go, please. I don't want to. Another thing that you found telling. I don't want to interrupt that.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that in the testimony, there's a particular reference Epstein makes to Africa. And he says, I do a lot of work in Africa. And he refers to Africa as fertile ground for experimentation. And so it turns out that Epstein was a major funder of this weird artificial intelligence lab being created in Ethiopia that's tied to the scientist who's overtly transhumanist that he funded extensively, named Benjamin Goertzel. Goertzel is, for example, head of Humanity Plus, formerly the World Transhumanist Association, which is an entity that Epstein funded in addition to funding Goertzel's own work. And Goertzel is also the chief scientist at Hanson Robotics, which has produced these human-like robots, the best well-known probably being Sophia, the robot that was, for example, granted citizenship by Mohammed bin Salman at a time when one of his close advisors was Jeffrey Epstein. Again, very odd activity there. So as far as what was going on in Ethiopia, at the time that Epstein was investing in this AI lab, and backing Goertzel, Goertzel was teaming up with this blockchain company called Cardano that's pretty well known in the cryptocurrency space. And they were specifically seeking to offer digital ID. Well, it's already happened. They gave a digital ID essentially to 5 million Ethiopian school children with the intention of expanding that. And the whole intention of this is to harvest data from these children. They explicitly say that. So, and even in other documents, Goertzel essentially.
Very interesting stuff. I'll change the screen in a second to show you the name of that video that you can go look it up and watch the rest yourselves. I played enough for us to hear about what these guys' intentions were or are in Africa, right? So very interesting type of stuff. Should be talking number 5. I'll go cover this already. Epstein targeted youth, the USVI, for his so-called education program, RBG. What do you think about it?
I am in shock of what I just heard. This dude is like, he's like, you know what I'm saying? Like the mad scientist, dude. Like this is the level. This is the white supremacist. This dude is the, and there's more of them like him. That's the problem. This planet has 8 billion odd people. And you mean to tell me, you know what I'm saying, it ain't no soulless dude out there is just on the other side of the planet? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? How many places are in Africa? They're talking about fertile ground. This is not like, this is disturbing. Please post that link up there. Cause like that, I mean, you know, he was all this, the genetics of he was trying to codify people and like, you know, who's giving him these babies is a real question. Who, you know what I'm saying? We can sit here and say people get snatched up. No. He's setting up sophisticated programs to funnel kids, you know, the whole science. A lot of this is there's this, the United States has 50 million black people, right? And so it's hard to really fathom that. There's a lot of places with a lot of people, and people live their lives. They hear these programs, and all these stuff is connected to these rich folks, and they kind of, you know, filter through children and say, oh, we just need you to come out here and, you know what I'm saying, fun land. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's foul, dude. This is so foul. That's so much more heartbreaking than like the video of the because it's systematic. They're doing scientific. I mean, I don't know how to describe. You know what I'm saying? The whole front of everything, the whole the fake benevolence of everything, of all of this. You know what I'm saying? Where, you know what I'm saying? And this is the nature of you know what I'm saying? The United States colonialism of the Virgin Islands, and the nature of the islands being these isolated locations where you can just do anything, and you know what I'm saying, just have an island out in the middle of nowhere and just do the foul, evil, low life. The low life did. And I mean, what after you've done this experimentations, like, you know what I'm saying, how many people have just, you know what I'm saying, the accidents and things that, you know what I'm saying, the fact that as Black people we've been, the biggest detriment is just the inability to have information about vital statistics about our very being. You know what I'm saying? We cannot refer to our own indexes, you know what I'm saying, in the way that we were to do so, to even attempt to even counter a lot of that. I mean, the only way to do it is, again, hold on to your children, hold on to your family members. Do not hold on to the young people in your family, and keep aware of what they're doing. Have redundancy about people who do about what it is, because there's no safe place out if you're out in the relatively rural area. You know what I'm saying? Things can get snatched up because there's, you know what I'm saying, there's no one around. Whether you're in like the big city, you know what I'm saying, there's a whole bunch of people. You can get caught up in there's a lot of things. It will be a subtle way. You know what I'm saying? You get distracted away from your own kin. You know what I'm saying? And just things happen. It's really disheartening to hear that is the level. I almost wish you would play it again. I wish you would play the whole thing. Just, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing that we can say about that. I mean, let me go ahead and let someone else talk.
I appreciate it, RBG. Well, you know, it's a 24-minute video. Like I said, I'll drop the link in the chat in a bit because it was slowing down my computer. But yeah, I think we needed to discuss it a bit. We have some time, so let's discuss it. Let me change it up a little bit. Let me go to Black Steel on this one. Black Steel, what say you about this?
Remember what I said at the beginning of the show about Black children being the most unprotected? And here it is, in our face, about Black children being the least protected. So we understand Jeffrey Epstein, who he was, what he was doing. He was looking for vulnerable children to exploit. You know, he came in with some sort of philanthropist, some sort of humanitarian ideas, and I'm going to help the children and educate them. When in reality, and these people, you know, they probably didn't know who he was. But I recognize that these people, this man, he wanted to fuck kids. And that's really what it is. And, you know, I'm not big on conspiracy theories, but I will say this. There is a network of pedophiles. And I also remember, you know, in history, when white people would enslave African people, how they would conquer, you know, people, you know, indigenous people around the world. They would go on an orgy of rape. So I think that this urge to violate women, children, it hasn't really gone anywhere. You know, they can't express it in open the way they used to. But now what do? They just find kids. You know, they go to poor countries where people don't have resources or education, and they pretend to show up in a helping hand, and they violate these children. And, I don't wish death on anybody, but I have read some obituaries with a great deal of satisfaction. So I'm happy to know that this man is no longer walking the earth. But the reality is he didn't work by himself. There was an entire network, um, government officials that I'm sure he bribed, both in the Virgin Islands and in Africa. There were some people who were working with him to get him access to these young people. And I think that that information needs to be brought out. And again, there were some young people who were suing him, some young girls who were suing him. But this goes deeper than Epstein, which is why I don't believe that he hung himself. I truly believe that they took him off because he was getting ready to talk. And he was going to say some names, and these names they didn't want these names to be out there. So I for one never believe Epstein killed himself. I believe that he was taken off the board for a purpose. Um, this is such a disgusting story. I really need these people to be brought to justice or whatever that looks like. The only justice would be to have the parents of these children straight up castrate these men. That would be the only true justice I believe that can be seen. But I'll leave it there. Thank you, Coach.
I appreciate it, Carl. In the chat, Afro Native World says, think of how this would be sold to us in the Black Caribbean, where our people are economically disadvantaged. In the chat, Erzulism said, Black people are a disgrace, especially the black man. The black man is a coward. Can't even protect their seed, but we
Can I speak to that? I got a problem with Erzuli and his perspective sometimes, because how you blame the victim? Why is it whenever something happens to black people, we're at fault? These children were molested by somebody with more power, more money, and their parents probably sent them to school thinking they were going to get an education. And you say black people are a disgrace? Like, how you? I get so tired of this blame the victim narrative. Let's have some smoke for these crackers, but we always got smoke for each other. Come on, man, let's do better. My bad. We still there?
Sorry about that. I thought Carl was going to go on. With that said, let's welcome in Zuli this week. Zuli, how are you?
Yo, I'm fine.
Respond to the prompt and then to Carl.
Okay. I mean, this is no difference than when the C-19 came and they told you that you have here's these shots, give it to your peoples, and you can't do nothing about it. Like, I just read there's this HBO show coming. I meant to put that as a prompt, but I didn't. But this lady went to Uganda, somewhere in Africa. Shorty killed 800 kids in the name of helping out. It's a TV show, something that's supposed to come out in HBO or something like that. So the government of Africa, or whichever country, where are those people to protect the people? Whether Epstein is a reprobate or not, where is the wall to protect the reprobate from coming to attack your people? So I'm not absolving these people from being reprobate. At the end of the day, these people don't owe you nothing. Where are your people to protect the seeds of the next generation? I'm tired of all this talk about crying. Yo, I'm not addressing the parents of the children. When I say what I said, I'm talking about the government. Where are they? Just like, where's the government to protect the wildlife in Africa? These people come and hunt and kill your lions, your deers, and you don't do nothing just for money. Where's the government? I'm going to say the same thing because there's a situation going on in Haiti right now where the Dominican Republic shut down some highway or something like that. And they just killed a couple of Haitians. Where's the government? All this thing we're talking about, but we want to call each other kings and queens and gods and goddesses. You're mad at me because I'm saying, how am I blaming the victim? I'm not blaming the boy. I'm not even blaming the parents. I'm blaming, where's the system that is supposed to protect the people from other countries? What are we talking about? Where are the men? So God created you with all that muscle for no reason? We're sitting there talking about Epstein. How was he allowed to go in these countries and do that? And do those experiments? If this whole thing is true and not a conspiracy theory, where was the government supervising this or whatever? So we want to sit there and act like we're not failing our own people because we are weak and cowards. So you letting another group of people, and Epstein is not even a country. You let a couple of rich men come to your country, experiment on your kids, and then you want to cry, oh, look at what Epstein is doing? You let these people come and experiment on your people with the AIDS shots, with all these things that gave your people more AIDS. And you talking to me, stop blaming the victim? So who's supposed to defend the little girls and the little boys? If the men are not doing it, if the women are not doing it, if the government is not doing it, who is supposed to protect the little boys that can't protect themselves? I don't need, what am I supposed to say about Epstein? That's not already been said. We know he's a reprobate, allegedly killed himself. So if a water is shark infested and somebody goes in there and lets their kids go swimming in there, I should be mad at the sharks? Not at the parents? Or at the lifeguard that's supposed to be protecting them? I don't understand this. You elect government officials to protect your people's interests. But those government, the politicians, are enriching themselves and sending their kids to be educated in Europe, to come back with European minds and exploit the people more. And you there telling me not to blame them. But we want to blame, let's blame the French government. Where are your people? We're not in the 1600s anymore. There's knowledge going to the internet that you can learn to find out about yourself. So we're going to keep blaming the white man this, white man that, and then not checking your people? This is ridiculous to me. How in 2023 or whatever 2020, a millionaire could go to your country, do all of this. There's no government there to protect your people. Just like there's no government to protect the people's land then. No government to protect their natural resources. No government to protect the animals there. It's just a free-for-all. But you're losers, bro. But we're calling each other kings, queens, and god and goddess. Of what? I'm done, bro.
So in your post, you said black people are a disgrace. You didn't say the government was a disgrace. You didn't say the people who were supposed to be protecting these children are a disgrace. You said black people. So what else can I infer from that where you're talking about the people that this happened to? That's why I say you're blaming the victim. So perhaps maybe you should be more clear with what you're saying, because when you say black people are a disgrace, again, you made a comparison to sharks. Sharks are animals, you know. We can most certainly focus our attention on these crackers. But I also want to say this happened in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The United States government should be the one, in theory, to be the ones to protect the citizens of these islands, because they are United States territory. But we can't expect anything from white people to protect black people. But it's also understood that Epstein had ties to the government. We've seen him at parties with Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. This man was connected in a way. So again, I'm not going to sit up here and say what the parents should have done, the government officials who probably were very well in the pocket of this man, of the governments that he works with. This is a very wide-ranging conspiracy that is done to give access to poor, vulnerable children. So I'm not even surprised that the government in these countries don't work, because they're not meant to work for their people. This is a long, hard road, we had to go through. That we understand. Yes.
Let me ask you a question. All right. So if this government, like you said, are not meant to protect the people, right?
Okay.
The people in the country, like, for example, in Haiti, right? Every so often they have something called a deshukai. A deshukai is an uprising that just kills all the people that were supposed to do what they do, and then they didn't do it. Okay, why are the people not rising up against their own people?
So, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. I'm just saying that.
So if you're asking that question as far as at least the United States, I'm gonna tell you right now, most Americans don't think like that. We're thoroughly indoctrinated, number one, and number two, we have the most armed, militarized police force on the planet. The United States police have more weapons than some militaries of many countries. So understand, we may outnumber them, but go ahead.
I'm not really talking about America. I'm talking about in all these other countries, like out of the Caribbean, Africa, like these people. Like I know here, I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about when I say I feel that these people, a lot of the government in other countries are supposed to protect. And like you just said, a lot of these government in different countries are puppets. So we're just in a circle now, Black Steel. Like to me, it seems like there's no way out of this.
Can I take a crack at it? Can I take a crack at answering the question?
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's do it like this. So in Africa right now, you have 5 different schools in Africa where the black people in the areas of the specific countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, several other African countries have decided to tell the French no more. Okay? And they said that they are going to create a so-called Northern Bloc where they're going to just do business with one another. In terms of what happened on the outside, we're going to protect one another. It's a different arrangement the men of that society have decided to do actively, whether it's even to give their lives. And also the people have decided to support it. So they wouldn't qualify in terms of what you're talking about, in terms of being disgraceful, because they actually standing up now, regardless of the fact that their enemies are even at their borders, Nigeria, and they have France with Sarkozy, not Sarkozy, I forget his name, Macron. So they wouldn't qualify in terms of what you're talking about. In terms of the Caribbean, let's talk about the Caribbean. And in terms of the UN, because the UN, it goes to Haiti as a so-called peacekeeping mission force, right? And then I know you know this guy called Barbecue. So Barbecue say, well, I can do some things in my area and certain things, even if they qualify us as a gang, we're gonna basically stop trying to engage people in a certain way. We're gonna do certain things, like basically what you're describing right now, the uprising, that people actively deciding to fight. Now, whether they can consider us to be terrorists in the area or whether they consider us to be gangs in the area, we're going to do something about it, right? So these people are actively trying to resist what's happening externally from the external forces coming in and actually doing something about it, because no one ever says the UN, when it comes into different territory, they trade medical goods for sex. That's not the face of the UN. When they consider themselves as peacekeepers, that's not the story it's told. And I agree with you when you say what happens to the government. It happened in my country. When Peter Nygaard, a billionaire from Canada, I think, Canada, one of these countries, came here, and he was fraternizing with the leaders of the country. Fraternizing, even though this man was sexing off a bunch of Bahamian girls. I have a problem with that. I do. So I'm saying to myself, well, how should I approach the situation? Should I walk up to the leader, head of the state, and blow his head off? What should I do in that scenario? Because I don't want that to happen. Because he was a pedophile too. He was a pedophile too. With the complicity of the leadership in the country. I watch other black men in different countries do stand up, and they do have something to say about it. But sometimes it don't make the formal news because the world, no, the Western media does not want to expose the fact that people within the society are standing up, because they're going to be outside force. People say, well, you know what, I support that man, or what are you doing? And let me send him some money, or let me send him some guns to stand up against his country. Like how they doing with Burkina Faso. Russia stand up, and Russia is helping the Africans on the continent. So the Western media is not going to put that before the people. So when you see the narrative, all you see is one specific perspective. It's not to say that people, I only hear like 2 different interviews from the guy barbecue in Haiti, and I would like to hear more from him. But the only way I get from him is by Western media. And Western media going to weave that tale. I am sure there are people within the community who saying this ain't right. I would never permit a child, if I know a billionaire comes to the country and say we're gonna run these experiments, I stand against that completely. I ain't gonna let that happen. And if he have a parent, he or she has a parent, I can't bully the parent. Say, don't even I could tell the parent, is listen, man, don't go to this medical facility or this medical lab. This person running experiments. But I can't force the parent, to tell the parent how the child should or should not behave. I can't do that. So I am in between, even though in other countries I know it's more serious than that. Because you're dealing with children who have no parents. They have no parents. So the people in the community must resist if they know better. But if you, oh goodness, man, some people come into a community in Zuli and they spread their money around and they tell the people, hey, we having a facility here and we're gonna do this for them. And we can do. If I don't know any better, I ain't gonna be inclined to do anything. So, oh, when he only wants good for us. Even I don't know if he lied or not. I never been into. I don't know his background. I don't know his criminal record. I don't know this and that and the third about these people. So me as just a regular citizen, I'm saying, okay, well, he have this for us and he give us money and he help us. This is how these people come in. The reason we was talking about Brother Polite the other week. Brother Polite is a con man, but he was able to fix to himself within the community because he was a con man. He was convincing in what he did. These people have resources to play the game, to make it seem like they are not what it actually is. And some people just don't know better. And I think that with sometimes, not always, because sometimes I understand your argument. So where is the government? Some of these government, we believe that the people who are in power are well informed and they should know better, but they don't know. They don't know. Some of them stupid as they dumb as a bunch of bricks. They really don't know. And it's not to take the onus and responsibility of them because they should find out. They really should find out. But there are people within these communities who actively trying to resist, brother. Don't make no mistake about it. You may not hear about them, you know what I mean? But they do exist in these societies. And I don't want to ignore them because looking from the outside, looking in, you would think that nothing is happening and nothing is going on. Nobody's saying nothing, nobody arguing, nobody fighting, nobody fussing. That ain't really necessarily true. And you know that having ties to Haiti, you know things that go on in Haiti that does not reach the Western media. does not reach CNN or the BBC. You know stories that happens in that country that'll never reach them areas. So someone who don't know any better, looking from the outside, so what's wrong with these people? Why don't they do anything about it? But usually, what is projected is just one side of the story. That's what I would say about that. I don't know what you have to say. Think about that. But go ahead, brother.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, for one, I misunderstood the prompt. I thought the prompt was talking about these people were in Africa, right? But I resaw it says Virgin Islands. Okay. Another thing is, there's too much Yo, Bawana, if I came to your house and beat you up, spit in your face, and all of that, and then come back 20 years later and trying to be friends with you, you would look at me sideways.
Yes.
So how could these people, knowing that a lot of people, these people came to your country, taught you, quote unquote, from the Ma'afa, brought you here, why do you expect these people to always do right by you? Where is that? How come if I go to these people, they look at me side eyes, but when these other people come, they welcome them with open hands? Is that not a sickness?
Yes.
So where is the independent people? Where are the philosophers? Where are the smart people? Where are the street smart people to be like, yo, there's something fishy about those people. These people did this to us. You shouldn't just let your kids go with them just like that. Where's that memory? Have we lost that memory? Have we lost that?
I want to answer that. So what usually happens is, like I say, we was talking about COVID just a minute ago. You would not hear the cry from the Bahamian people say, I ain't taking that shit, you know. I mean, you would, because you weren't here. So you would hear the people on the ground, on the radio station saying, nah, we ain't taking that. No way we ain't taking that. You would not hear that because you don't have the access. Well, you could go online, I guess, but you wouldn't have the access to hear. But there are many people, the people may not participate, but the formal government say, well, we can accept the medicine. We can accept the medicine. That don't mean the people taking it. You know how many people ain't taking that shit? You know what I mean? Some people died and take it, some people died. But you know how many people ain't take it? There was many Bahamian people, I'm sure Caribbean people, who was absolutely adverse to taking that, and they ain't seen no needle ever. But the Western media would never say that. It's one-sided, brother. That's all I'm saying. It's just one-sided because the Western media was, go ahead, brother. Go ahead, sorry.
I understand that a lot of people didn't take it. I get that. But the optical illusion is that your government accepted it. That means you cowered. You yielded. I get what
they are a bunch of cowards. I agree with you. They are a bunch of cowards, but I don't want you to think that, I don't want you to think that because they cowards, we cowards.
When I talk about that, and I'm sorry, I apologize to Black Steel and people. When I said I'm talking about the people who are supposed to be in charge to protect us. How are you consistently selling your own people out? Now it comes to a point, man, I can't blame the drug dealer. You the one that's supposed to say, now you're not selling drugs to my people. Or now you're not coming in and taking all our natural resources. Or now you're not coming in. Or if you want to use our natural resources, or if you want to create a auto plant here, a factory here, you have to hire 60% of our people. Where are these people, bro? It seems like Black people all over the world are caught in a rat wheel. Same thing after years after not same thing. So I'm just saying that, okay, these parents let their kids go for experiment. So these parents never heard of the Tuskegee experiment. These parents, 100 years ago, your great-grandparents were enslaved. So it's just easy for you to let your kids go because rich people show up?
So, Julie, let me give you an example. Just so recently, let me know there was a shooting, mass shooting. Some racists went to a dollar store and killed 3 black people, in Jacksonville, Florida. So now the governor of Florida is very racist. He's done many things to try to eliminate Black history. He's destroyed Black congressional districts that eliminate Black people's right to vote. He's a horrible person. So he came to this memorial they were having for for the victims, and all the Black people in the crowd were booing him. He couldn't even talk. So of course, a Black congressional member of the Black caucus, I guess she was a senator, that was her district, she got up there, okay, you guys, calm down, calm down. So, and they gave her that business too. But and now she regrets it. But I think that many of our leaders are people who are in government, who are in charge of these systems of government. They're fully in bed with the overarching system. These same white people who we hate. We've always had traitors, and I think that we don't realize that many Black people who work in government, they don't serve the interests of their people. They serve, if they're in Africa, they serve the British or the French. They still work for the colonial masters. Really, that's unfortunate. But the people who we elect to serve the people aren't serving the people. They're serving their own interests many times, or the interests of the European.
And that's I mean, then how do we have a chance to change the situation, bro? I mean, it's crazy to me, man.
The only thing I would say is, for brothers like you who want to do good, who have access, you have access. That's the first and foremost thing. You know what I mean? In terms of wherever you decide to do your work, your real work, in terms of helping and assisting people, whether it's Haiti or Caribbean or whatever, use your intelligence, use your resources, use the things that you need to do, and then go on the ground and try to make it better. You only can do the things that you as an individual could do. When you find people who have the same mindset as you, roll with them, and y'all could be a more powerful force. But unless you want to try to get into government, there's really not. These guys going to do what they've been doing. They trying to enrich themselves. You know what I mean? So you are a power to yourself, though. You have your own personal agency, and the people of Haiti, the people of the Caribbean, the people of even in America, you know what I mean, could learn from some of your talent and skill, and they could take it to another level. So do what you could do. That's all I would say. Do what you could do. Do the best thing that you could do. Or you are a producer. You're a movie producer and things like that. Well, put your content, the things that you believe that's true in the world or whatever. Put that in your content and make movies. Become the best creator of the movies, telling them these kinds of stories where people will watch these stories and be inspired by them and inspired to act and move. That's the talent you've been given. You should move towards in that direction. That's what I feel like you could do personally.
All right. If there's no last thoughts here, that's the show tonight. Next week, we'll be back again. Make sure you guys join the Discord. Post your topics. I try to get to all of them. If I've missed any that you've posted, DM me with the topics, and we'll discuss them. Before we go, let's see who wants to shout out anything this week. Or Zuli, you want to shout anything out this week?
Nah, good show. No, I'm good. Good show. Always enjoy it, even though I'm in the background.
All right. Real Black Gentleman, what say you? Want to shout anything out this week? Maybe RBG is gone. Black Steel, you want to shout anything out this week?
Just want to shout you out, Coco, for putting this together, bringing this all together, and moderating these discussions, man. Shout out to you.
I appreciate that. Shout out to you as well. Thank you for coming through. Buana, you want to shout anything out this week?
Shout out to all the brothers who contributed tonight. RBG, Black Steel, Urzuli asks questions, pertinent questions from time to time. that is challenge us in terms of how we should act and move. I don't agree with many things he say or how he says it from time to time, you know, but he have his own internal question in his head that he must answer. And I feel like the only way he can answer that question is to move, to act, to try to put himself in positions where the onus is on him to move and the responsibility, some of the responsibility, help us with the responsibility of lifting the load, and the load will become much lighter. You know what I mean? It's very, starting on the outside is good and showing where all the cracks are is good, but help me to prepare the cracks, to fix the cracks that exist. You know what I mean? Help me to carry the load so the load will be lessened. If you see there are flaws, come help me lift it. Help me lift the load so the load will be lessened. So that's my challenge to the brother who always asks the pertinent questions. The questions are only there because there is some way that you could be able to lessen the load or help us fix the problems that currently exist. Don't just stand on the outside. Come participate and come help us lift the load. That's what I'll end it there with that. Okay. All right. Peace out, everyone. Yeah.
All right, peace, Bonner. Thank you all for coming through. Thanks to everyone who was in the chat tonight. I know Trigger Happy 262 was there. Afro Native World was there. Azuliism was out there for a while. Provide Triggers was here in the background. Black Steel was in the chat as well. We had RBG, Kid of It on 7. Brother Bakari was out there. Jose was out there as well. Relma in the Bush was out there. Daily Affirmations by Pauline, Joe, and Coach Pete was out there tonight. I think I got everyone there. Marcus McGee was here tonight. You know, shout out to the 4Kast and Dorico Cooper, and I'm trying to remember, and Bobby Wright. Shout out to all you guys who are usually out there somewhere listening. All right, see you guys next week. Perhaps you'll see me during the week. Right? Perhaps you'll see me during the week as well. Until next time, you guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.